Chapter 1044. The water pillar's impact was scattered and not as focused as the ice pillar. The ice pillar could accurately hit a single point and deal a huge amount of damage. At the same time, under Blue's control, the tip of the ice pillar would become abnormally sharp. Wouldn't it become a giant ice arrow that pierced through the sky? With this thought, Lin Yuan could not help but look forward to Gray and Blue's cooperation after they grew up. Seeing Gray moving around in his arms, Lin Yuan said to Gray, "Gray, use your exclusive skill, Jade Pact. Summon the Jade Beast formed by the weather, and snow weather." When Gray heard Lin Yuan's command, it flapped its wings and flew out of Lin Yuan's arms. When Gray heard Lin Yuan's command, it flapped its wings and flew out of Lin Yuan's arms. As it flapped its wings, the 3 jade ornaments on Gray's body suddenly lit up. Then, from the sun-shaped topaz ornament, a bird-like fay with blazing flames on its head and tail came out. On the moon-shaped amethyst ornament, a black deer-like fay with purple stripes appeared. On the snowflake-shaped sea sapphire ornament, a tortoise fay covered in ice crystals appeared. Lin Yuan realized that the huge flaming bird formed by the weather from the weather was extremely aggressive. The black deer-like fay with purple stripes formed by the weather from the weather had an extremely strong control effect. The tortoise fay with ice crystals formed by the weather from the weather could use the ice crystals for defense. It could be said that Gray had only grasped 3 types of weather until now. However, the Jade Beast formed by these 3 types of weather was already capable of both defense and defense. Of course, it was limited by Gray's grade, and Gray had not absorbed much weather, so the fay formed by Jade Pact was not very strong. Even so, Gray's current display of strength was far superior to a regular silver fay. Gray was indeed a favored spirit. It was indeed powerful. Lin Yuan carefully checked Gray's true data. Fay name, Heaven Cloud Crane, Fay species, Feathered Crane/Red Crane, Fay grade. Bronze, 1/10. Fay type. Nature, Fay quality. Normal abilities. Weather clouds. The user's body appears in the form of clouds and mist all day long. When the user's body appears in the form of clouds and mist, the user will have an affinity with all natural weather phenomena. The user can absorb weather phenomena through the user's body and condense them into the clouds and mist. Every time the user absorbs a weather phenomenon, a new skill will be created. Clear weather's dazzling light. Changes the weather in an area covered by clouds to clear weather. At the same time, the clear weather mark is applied to all creatures within the area. Friendly targets will have increased damage when using light skills in clear weather, while enemies will suffer from heatstroke, burns, and other negative effects when using clear weather. Cloudy weather's shadow. In an area covered by clouds, the weather will become cloudy. At the same time, creatures within the area will be marked with the cloudy weather mark. When friendly targets use dark skills in cloudy weather, their damage will be increased, while enemies will suffer from confusion, fear, and other negative effects. Frozen snowy weather. In an area covered by clouds, the weather will be changed into snowy weather. At the same time, creatures in the area will be covered with the snowy weather mark. When friendly targets use ice skills in snowy weather, their damage will be increased. When using water skills can be turned into ice skills by consuming spirit chi. In snowy weather, enemies would receive a series of debuffs such as stiffness and numbness. At the same time, the damage of fire-type skills would be reduced. Exclusive skill Frowny Face Promise of Precious Jade. Condense each type of chi into a special type of precious jade. The precious jade will form a special precious jade pattern that will grow on the feather. After the chi is condensed into a precious jade pattern, the chi will no longer contain any chi. When the precious jade pattern is activated, each chi will turn into a special precious jade beast. Under true data, Gray's quality was only normal. However, he did not need to worry about Gray's current quality. When Gray continued to absorb chi in the process of growing, its quality would definitely improve. Due to Gray's exclusive skill, Pact of the Precious Jade, the mist it turned into was no longer as conspicuous as before. Lin Yuan allowed Gray to freely fly above the return from faraway mansion to absorb the clear weather. Everything was settled. Gray had ascended to the sky, and the Mother of Bloodbath was freed. The Mother of Bloodbath returned to the training room to absorb the blood energy contained in the blood brew grapes. Lin Yuan sat on the chair and had to start facing reality. He could not help but rub his chin with his hand. When he had many heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls, he had always been very confident. In the process of building the faction with Zhongzhe, Gu Lang, Long Tao, and the others, he had directly agreed to the high-star creation master resources and heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls that the faction needed to develop. During the inter-federation trade with Lin Yuan had also said that he would let Lin freely decide the number of heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls for the transaction. At present, the Spirit Heron Chamber of Commerce was developing with the function of luxury resources, and it would inevitably use heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls in the future. When Lu Pinru and Wen Yu were developing the Pinru home brand, Lin Yuan had also suggested to Wen Yu to let the Pinru home provide superior order and distribution services. In order to reflect the nobility of the superior order, Lin Yuan planned to let the superior order clothing be decorated with heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls. At the same time, the purchase with no loss store fan club that Lin Yuan had taught Listen to need to consume one heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearl every day for group welfare auctions. There were also the floating island whale, Blue, and the slaughter butterfly that had recovered its bloodline. It could be said that the current burden of elemental pearls that Lin Yuan needed to bear was very huge. The awakening of Gray's favored spirit had forcibly reduced Lin Yuan's stockpile of heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls to 0. Although the 7 bronze/legend elemental shellfish in the Spirit Lock spatial zone were still continuously producing elemental pearls. Currently, the 7 bronze/legend elemental shellfish were obviously not enough for Lin Yuan. The Spirit Lock spatial zone had evolved not long ago, and the spirit chi concentration had greatly increased. It had broken the stalemate of the spirit chi pool's production and consumption. Now, the spirit chi produced by the spirit pool was far from being enough for the Spirit Lock spatial zone. Under such circumstances, Lin Yuan had already decided to obtain a few more young elemental shellfish to nurture. However, Gao Feng had also mentioned during the phone call that a large amount of spirit chi had surged out with the opening of the water world dimensional rift. Almost all the young elemental shellfish in the ocean had evolved into exploding pearl shellfish under the nourishment of the large amount of spirit chi. Therefore, it was extremely difficult to obtain young elemental shellfish. This was also the main reason why the heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls prices were constantly rising. Lin Yuan sighed. No matter how rare it is to obtain young elemental shellfish, I must obtain some for myself. If the Spirit Lock spatial zone could produce 7 or 8 more bronze/legend elemental shellfish, Lin Yuan's stockpile of heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls would increase exponentially. Even if he encountered a situation like today where the elemental pearls were forcefully cleared, Lin Yuan would be able to handle all kinds of situations with just 14 or 15 heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls produced by the various bronze/legend elemental shellfish. Just as Lin Yuan was thinking about how to obtain young elemental shellfish, his phone rang. When he saw the caller, Lin Yuan revealed a smile. It seems like the person who delivered the young elemental shellfish is here. The third update. The following is a warning. There might be an update on the 20th. If everyone votes for more monthly votes and recommendation votes, there might be an update of 20. End of this chapter. Chapter 1045. Just as he picked up his cell phone and was about to pick up the call. Since gray ash was happily absorbing the sunny weather in the sky was bright and clear. This caused Her Majesty and the veteran Emperor-class experts, who were currently in the royal capital, to frown and look up at the sky. In the land of spirit suppression, a woman in a black dress with a black veil on her face looked at the sunny sky after a night of heavy snow and said softly, "The sunny air is gathering in the sky above the royal capital. The clear skies are gathering in the sky above the capital. Could it be that a heavenly treasure that can trigger the clear skies has appeared in the capital?" Night Leaning Moon shook her head when she thought of this. If it was really a heaven-blessed item that was triggering the weather, then the scale of the weather change was simply too weak. A heaven-blessed item's grade definitely could not exceed silver. At the thought of a heaven-blessed item, Night Leaning Moon's pupils contracted as though she had thought of something. Night Leaning Moon had personally seen how an undying species heaven-blessed item had summoned the stars, treated the stars as marbles, and used its palm as a bow and arrow. It had used the stars to turn into marbles and smash the ground. When an adult heaven-blessed item was strengthening its strength and absorbing natural energy, it was impossible for her not to feel the natural changes that were triggered. The only possibility for the current situation was that a newly born heaven-blessed item was triggering the weather above the royal capital. While pondering, Night Leaning Moon could not help but smile helplessly. If a heaven-blessed item had really just been born in the royal capital, then the royal capital would not be so peaceful now. It would probably have already set off a shocking phenomenon. The entire Federation's attention in the main world would also converge on the Radiance continent. Soon, the Azure Federation would send a diplomatic envoy to the Radiance Federation. Something was bound to happen when the two federations met. In these troubled times, it was very likely that there would be some people secretly plotting something. If a newly born heaven-blessed item really appeared in the royal capital, it would definitely not be a good thing for the entire Radiance Federation. It could even be said to be the beginning of a disaster. However, a heaven-blessed item was of great importance. Since it had appeared in the Radiance continent, they naturally had to do their best to keep it. However, the Heaven-Blessed Dojo was an organization formed by heaven-blessed items, and they would never let a newborn heaven-blessed item wander outside. At the same time, Her Majesty and the veteran Emperor-class experts, who sensed the strange weather, had the same thoughts as Night-Leaning Moon. However, there were also powerhouses who were conducting a large-scale search of the royal capital. For example, Iron Prison and some Emperor-class powerhouses with bases in the royal capital operated the world laws that they controlled. Of course, whether it was Iron Prison or these top factions' Emperor-class experts, they deliberately avoided the return from faraway manor where Lin Yuan was when they were probing the aura of the blessed items. Lin Yuan had won the Civil and Martial Arena Championship at the Nyx Assembly. Lin Yuan's talent and identity were directly reflected in the eyes of the various top factions, veteran factions, and His Holiness. Iron Prison did not wish to have another conflict with the Moon Empress, who had yet to return to the royal capital, because of Lin Yuan. As for the Emperor-class experts of the Pinnacle factions that had their headquarters in the royal capital, they didn't dare to investigate the manor that the Moon Empress disciple resided in. After all, using the power of the rule world to investigate the return from faraway manor was essentially no different from trespassing on private property. As such, Gray managed to evade the attention of the experts in the royal capital, who had discovered the anomaly in the weather. It was just that Lin Yuan didn't notice the anomaly in the weather that the experts had discovered. The royal capital was now a pool of clean water, but a few hours ago, it was still last night, when Gray had just flown into the sky to absorb the first wisp of sunny weather. A short, fat elder within the amethyst cavern suddenly revealed a strange look in his eyes. The benevolent-looking short and fat elder reached out his hand and waved in the purple crystal cavern. The broken purple crystals in the purple crystal cavern immediately condensed into a purple crystal ball. The crystal ball was like a giant world instrument, and a large amount of deep purple colors appeared in the southeast direction of the crystal ball. The short and fat elder suddenly shouted toward the outside of the purple crystal cavern. "Later, come to my place for a meeting. The power of nature in the southeast direction is in disorder. I think there should be a new little fellow appearing." As the short and fat elder spoke, his body immediately trembled as though he wanted the crystal ball to reveal more secrets. 12 long, slender, and supple purple tails grew out from the short and fat elder's back. In an instant, the short and fat elder turned into a tall, middle-aged woman dressed in a purple fox fur coat. She had a charming and dignified expression. The 12 fox tails flowed with a texture as though the world was about to fall apart. These 12 fox tails symbolized immortality in this world that was about to fall apart. As the 12 fox tails swayed to their heart's content, the stars in the sky shone down beams of starlight even though it was daytime. The beams of starlight fell into the purple crystal ball, and the purple crystal ball revealed a ray of sunlight, a dark cloud, and a few ice crystal-like snowflakes in the area where the power of nature was in disorder. Upon seeing this scene, the middle-aged woman dressed in a fox fur coat revealed a surprised expression and murmured, "This little fellow's talent is rather interesting." This little guy's talent is quite interesting. It actually involves 3 aspects of the force of nature. Just as the middle-aged woman swayed the 12 purple tails behind her and observed the information on the crystal ball, in a lotus pond not far from the crystal cavern, lotus leaves swayed, and ripples appeared in the green pond. A blooming blue lotus flower no longer absorbed the power of nature from the dozens of streams under the lotus pond. The lotus flower rotated and turned into a beautiful woman with waist-length blue hair. After the beautiful woman with waist-length blue hair appeared, she plucked a few tomatoes growing on the edge of the lotus pond. She rinsed the tomatoes in the lotus pond and stuffed them tightly into her mouth. The beautiful woman with waist-length blue hair walked toward the crystal cavern while eating the tomatoes. Along the way, the blue-haired woman ate at least 6 or 7 tomatoes. While eating the tomatoes, the blue-haired woman kept smacking her cherry lips, as though she was reminiscing the taste of the tomatoes. On a few cedar trees, a black chicken that had just absorbed the power of night and was lazily crowing in boredom also shook its body. It turned into a very sturdy man wearing a fishnet robe. After transforming into a human, the tall man pretended to look at the 10 fingernails on his hand that were dyed completely black. Then, he shook his shoulder-length black hair, and a cunning smile appeared on his face. She looked a little charming, which was hard to describe with words. In the air, the black fishnet robe fluttered behind the sturdy man like wings. The sturdy man walked toward the direction of the amethyst cavern. On the thick red rock, there was a huge blood-red and gold spider. This spider looked to be as tall as a small mountain, and its body was intertwined with red and gold, glowing with a faint jade-like brilliance. Chapter 1046. Hearing that voice, the jade-like body of the huge spider that was absorbing energy from the sun shone brightly. Then, the giant spider transformed into a tall and handsome middle-aged man. This handsome middle-aged man had short red hair that was as red as a ruby crystal. One of his eyes was red and the other was gold. His body was like white jade under the sun. He was like a man in a painting. However, the man's eyes seemed to be filled with sorrow that couldn't be dispelled, causing the sunlight to seem mournful. At the same time, the creatures who had absorbed the natural energy from the ice crystals, the lava, the earth, the plants, and the thunderclouds all turned into human shapes and walked towards the crystal caves. On this not-so-vast island, there were a total of 17 different landforms. These 17 landforms seemed to have been forcefully pieced together. It was very abrupt. But every landform could be regarded as the best environment to absorb self-energy. At that moment, 16 figures had gathered at the entrance of the crystal cavern. Only after everyone had arrived did they enter the crystal cavern together. As soon as the 16 chosen spirits entered the crystal cavern, the middle-aged woman in the purple fox fur coat waved the crystal ball in her hand. The crystal ball appeared in front of everyone who had just entered the cave. Looking at the situation on the crystal ball, the blue-haired woman hurriedly swallowed a tomato in her hand, burped and said, "Big Sister Xueqi, the southeast of the heaven-blessed dojo we are at is only the Agro continent and the Radiance continent. It seems like the direction should be around the Agro continent and the Radiance continent." At this point, the blue-haired woman suddenly thought of something. If it's any of the 3 great federations in the Agon continent, it would be fine. Since we are the blessed dojo, no one from the Divine Wood Federation, Iron Hammer Federation, and Deep Vendor Federation would dare to say anything. However, if this is the Radiance Federation, it will be a little troublesome for us to do things. The man in the black fishnet robe shook the black feather earrings on his ears as he spoke in a hoarse voice. "Sister Xueqi, could it be that you're mistaken? When I was absorbing the power of night last night, I also sensed a faint change in the night sky, but the change was too weak. If it really was caused by a heavenly treasure, then that heavenly treasure was clearly born not long ago. The birth of a being blessed by the heavens will definitely trigger a change in the world, and we'll be able to sense it long before it happens." While they were talking, the man in the fishing net suit saw a tomato flying toward him. By Feng, how could Sister Xueqing's star foresight be wrong? Even though the momentary disorder of the power of nature might not be caused by a heavenly treasure, the fact that the power of nature is in constant disorder means that a heavenly treasure is absorbing the power of nature to increase its strength. The black-clothed man named Bai Feng was just about to speak when a cold and furious voice rang out beside his ears. "It's fine if a perfectly fine black chicken named itself Bai Feng, but can you stop crowing every night when you're absorbing the power of night? It's one thing to chirp during the day, but it's also chirping at night. Does it really think that others don't sleep?" When the sturdy man in the black fishnet gauze heard this, he looked at the dark circles under his companion's eyes and said perfunctorily, "All right, I won't crow at night anymore." As he spoke, the muscular man wearing the black fishnet gauze clearly had a "hee-hee, I was just kidding you" expression written all over his face. Everyone who saw this only felt a burst of anger. Xueqi couldn't help but put her hand to her forehead when she saw everyone bickering every time they had a meeting. Looking at the time, Xueqi sat down on one of the chairs in the amethyst cave. Since the bickering had already begun, they wouldn't be able to stop without at least an hour. Xueqi's head hurt from the noise, so she covered her ears with her 2 furry purple tails. An hour later, Xueqi removed the 2 furry purple tails from her ears and said, "Since everyone is done arguing, let's start the meeting." The red-haired man, who had been silent all this while, went straight to the point. "I've never been out on a mission before. This time, I'll take on the mission of retrieving the newborn heavenly favored." I'm going to the Radiance continent and the Agility continent. While I'm completing the mission, I can also take a look at the Jade Gui. As he spoke, the tenderness and sorrow on the red-haired man's face intensified. Upon hearing that, Ziqing's face first revealed a yearning expression before she revealed some reluctance. Xueqi, you might not be a heavenly favored, but after fusing with younger sister Jade Gui's bloodline, you're no different from one now. Logically speaking, I should agree to you going, but you've just undergone the last bloodline metamorphosis, and your strength hasn't recovered yet. Why don't you wait for your strength to recover before setting off to the Radiance Federation's land of lava to remember younger sister Jade Gui? Upon hearing that, Xueqi lowered his head gently, and the sorrow in his eyes seemed to condense into mist. Xueqi was originally a scarlet tarantula with an ordinary bloodline. However, Xueqi was extremely talented, and when he had become a myth breed, he had stimulated the scarlet tarantula's bloodline to the peak. He could be called a top genius of the scarlet tarantula lineage. Although the scarlet tarantula's bloodline was considered relatively strong among Iraq species phase, there was still a certain gap when compared to the top few Iraq species phase bloodlines. Moreover, it was compared to the sundial jade spider's bloodline, which was a heavenly favored. At that time, Xueqi, who had become a myth breed, was inevitably attracted by the pheromones released by the Jade Gui. Just like the other male spider phase, Xueqi also pounced toward the Jade Gui without any regard for his own safety. After seeing the Jade Gui, Xueqi couldn't help but fall in love with it at first sight. Because they happened to be in the same place, Xueqi was the first to arrive. However, Xueqi wasn't eaten by the Jade Gui right away. Xueqi didn't know what the Jade Gui saw in him that made him stay until the very end instead of eating him and obtaining energy from him. Instead, it allowed him to survive. All of the Jade Gui's energy came from the other creation breed and mythical breed arachnid phase that rushed over one after another. In the end, the Jade Gui didn't choose the bloodline of those spider spirit creatures it had eaten, but instead, it made Jihao infuse his own bloodline into the egg in the most primitive way of living beings. At that time, Xueqi still remembered what the Jade Gui had told him. You're so pretty. I want to raise little spiders with you. This could be said to be the most beautiful words of love Xueqi had ever heard. The most perfect way for high-grade phase to express their love was to nurture their offspring together. Let a life tolerate each other's common bloodline and let it continue. Chapter 1047. However, who knew that when the Jade Gui was laying eggs that day, it would encounter the 5th page of truth, which was lurking among the 8 pages of the Radiance Federation's Tower Canon. Not to mention that the Jade Gui that had just laid eggs was already weak. Even if the Jade Gui was at its peak, it would definitely not be a match for the evil 5 pages of truth. In the end, the Radiance Federation's Moon Empress and Chief Guard Yi had to work together to make the 5 pages of truth give up on dealing the final blow to Yu Gui, who had entered a near-death state. They then snatched the egg that Yu Gui had just laid, which was the child of Xueqi and Yu Gui. But in the end, under the attack of the 5 pages of truth, the egg laid by the Jade Gui was still lost. Before his death, Yu Gui had injected the bloodline of the sundial jade spider into his body. He used the last of his strength to suppress the sundial jade spider bloodline that had suddenly entered his body. Because of the sundial jade spider bloodline in his body, Xueqi was brought back to the Blessed Heaven Mansion. Xueqi had to go through 9 bloodline transformations before he could completely merge Yu Gui's bloodline with his own bloodline. One had to know that each of the 9 bloodline transformations was a narrow escape from death. It was a miracle that Xueqi had managed to survive the 9 near-death bloodline transformations. As soon as Ziqing finished speaking, Bai Feng, who had always been mischievous, became serious. Bai Feng's face was also filled with obvious sorrow, as if she was sad about the departure of her companions. Sister Ziqing, don't stop Xueqi. I'm afraid Xueqi is going to see if he can find the child that he and Sister Yu Gui lost. Blue Lotus and I will accompany Xueqi for the mission to the Agro-Pattern continent and the Radiance continent. Lan Lian was about to retort when she heard Bai Feng's words. She seemed to be unhappy that Bai Feng brought her into the conversation. However, Blue Lotus didn't say anything in the end. It could be said that Jade Gui had watched Lan Lian grow up. Lan Lian's lotus pond could connect to the 4 seas, and it was Yu Gui who had helped Lan Lian build it. When Yu Gui entered the pregnancy period and left the Blessed Mansion, Lan Lian kept asking Yu Gui to be the godmother of the child. The fact that Xueqi was able to survive proved the relationship between Xueqi and the Jade Gui. Blue Lotus was naturally duty-bound to go out and look for the sundial to find the lost bloodline. Even if Bai Feng didn't bring it up, Lan Lian would have brought it up on her own. However, Lan Lian felt a little displeased that Bai Feng was representing her. However, this was clearly not the time for her to quarrel with Bai Feng. I rely on absorbing the power of water from the waters of the world. Look at this crystal ball. The power of nature that this little fellow absorbs comes from the weather phenomena of cloudy, sunny, snowflakes and so on. The snowflakes that fall will eventually turn into water. In terms of the power of nature, my perception of the little fellow is much stronger than Bai Feng's. I'll go with Xueqi to complete the mission. Sister Ziqing can rest assured. Bai Feng rolled her eyes when she heard that. You make it sound like Sister Ziqing is worried about me and Xueqi going on a mission. Bitch. How dare you step on me? Damn it. Ziqing was silent for a moment before replying. Of course I'll be at ease if the three of you go. Since Xueqi is so determined, then the three of you will go. At this point, Ziqing's eyes flashed fiercely. The Blessed Dojo has always stood aloof from worldly affairs, only seeking to have a piece of paradise in the great world. However, don't be afraid of stirring up trouble if you encounter a problem that isn't easy to solve. If you encounter someone from the pagoda cannon, don't waste your breath and just kill him. As Ziqing spoke, the eyes of the 16 figures, including Xueqi, burst with dense killing intent. This killing intent was also faintly filled with an immortal aura. Hello, I'm Brahma Scissorwing from the Brahma Insect Cage. Do you still remember me? Upon hearing the voice on the other end of the phone, Lin Yuan raised his eyebrows. It could be said that the Brahma Insect Cage's call was very much in line with Lin Yuan's wishes. He was not unfamiliar with the name Brahma Scissorwing. After developing his faction in Sky City, Lin Yuan had read a lot about the veteran factions and top factions. He had even roughly flipped through the information on the rising factions. Of course, he knew what the name Brahma Scissorwing meant to the Brahma Insect Cage. However, he could not see a person's appearance in the written information. Now, Lin Yuan finally matched the appearance with the name. Based on the voice he had heard on the phone, Lin Yuan could confirm that the silver-haired old woman who had been riding the sky snake vulture in the royal capital suburbs was the Brahma Insect Cage's famous Brahma Scissorwing. While Lin Yuan was pondering, Brahma Scissorwing, who had thought for an entire night before deciding to call, could not sit still. Brahma Scissorwing's hand, which was holding the phone, could not help but tremble slightly, and fine sweat seeped out of his forehead. This was because this call was related to Lin Yuan's attitude toward him and the Brahma Insect Cage. If Brahma Scissorwing had offended Zhong Zhe and Gu Lang at that time, even if Brahma Scissorwing needed to apologize afterward, there was no need to worry so much. Since the Brahma Insect Cage had always been backed by the Moon Empress, even if it provoked the Bamboo Monarch and Chef Supreme. As long as the Bamboo Monarch and Chef Supreme did not directly attack the Brahma Insect Cage, it would not affect much. However, if it offended Lin Yuan, not only would it make the Moon Empress angry, but it would also inevitably cause the Brahma Insect Cage to bear the reputation of biting the hand that fed it. Without the Moon Empress backing, it would be very difficult for the Brahma Insect Cage's top combat strength to increase again. In addition, Brahma Scissorwing had made this call with a mission. He wanted to see if he could ask for the Golden Lotus Brocade from Lin Yuan. The Golden Lotus Brocade was something that could change a creation master's pattern, and was a resource that the veteran factions and top factions had to fight for. Arriving one day later than the other factions was a huge loss for the Brahma Insect Cage. The Brahma Insect Cage, which had dominated the three major factions for 30 years, could not and did not want to bear such a loss. After staying high in the clouds for a long time, no one was willing to fall into the dust again. Therefore, Brahma Scissorwing's voice trembled on the other end of the phone. Young lord, you were the one who gave me the phone. You also said that the visitor is a guest. Upon hearing Brahma Scissorwing's voice again, Lin Yuan replied with a smile, That's right. That's right, those who come are guests. At that time, I still have to thank Senior for giving Endless Summer the creation seed sky-covering Weeping Willow Tree core, which allowed Endless Summer to obtain the opportunity to transform. In the end, Endless Summer and I still need to thank Senior. As for the Slaughter Sky Butterfly, Lin Yuan did not mention it. The Slaughter Sky Butterfly had already become a creation breed, and the Brahma Insect Cage must not know about this. Emperor-class combat strength was definitely the most important thing for a top combat strength that could not be easily used. If Brahma Scissorwing knew that the Slaughter Sky Butterfly had become a creation breed in his hands. Even if Brahma Scissorwing did not express anything, he would definitely cause a huge hatred for Lin Yuan behind his back. The gains did not make up for the losses. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Brahma Scissorwing's heart that was in his throat immediately calmed down. At the same time, he could not help but have a good impression of Lin Yuan. End of this chapter. Chapter 1048. Fan Jianyi hurriedly replied, "What are you talking about? It's our Brahma insect cage's fault for not keeping an eye on the slaughterworms and bringing trouble to your subordinates. I wonder if you have the time? I would like to pay you a visit to express my apology again." Lin Yuan raised his brows when he heard Fan Jianyi's words. Brahma Scissorwing was smart enough to push all the blame onto the slaughterworm, leaving himself completely unscathed. At the same time, Lin Yuan vaguely guessed why Fan Jianyi wanted to visit him in the mansion. If it was just to express his apology, then Fan Jianyi's call was enough. However, Fan Jianyi insisted on visiting him. On one hand, he wanted to make a gesture, and on the other hand, he wanted to discuss a deal face-to-face. The resources that Fan Jianyi cared about were the golden lotus brocade and the law crystals that contained pure power of laws. The coiling Dragon Valley and Aurora Cloud Bird Cage would not reveal that he had the law crystals that contained pure power of laws. Therefore, Fan Jianyi could only be looking for the golden lotus brocade to trade with him. Lin Yuan, who was in urgent need of the elemental shellfish, was waiting for someone to trade with him. "You are a guest. If Senior is willing to pay a visit, this Junior will naturally welcome you." Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Brahma Scissorwing said excitedly, "I wonder if Your Highness is free today or tomorrow?" Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan replied, "Just call me Lin Yuan. Today is a good day, and the sky is clear. It's a good time to hold a banquet." Even if Fan Jianyi wanted to come tomorrow, Lin Yuan would not agree. In a day, Lin Yuan's spirit lock spatial zone could produce a lot of elemental pearls. Now that Gray's favored spirit had completely emptied the elemental pearls, Lin Yuan did not want to waste even a single one. Fan Jianyi was happy and excited to see Lin Yuan so enthusiastic. Anyway, the Brahma insect cage had already prepared the resources to apologize to Lin Yuan. He only needed to bring the supplies over. Even if he went over now, he would not be rude because he was unprepared. After agreeing on a time with Fan Jianyi, Lin Yuan stood up from the sofa and stretched. He was thinking about how many golden lotus brocade he should use to exchange for a young elemental shellfish. The Brahma insect cage might not necessarily have the stock of young elemental shellfish. However, with the status and strength of the Brahma insect cage, it would not be difficult for them to obtain young elemental shellfish from other forces. Therefore, when trading with the Brahma insect's cage, it would be the same as trading with the Radiance Federation's various veteran factions and top factions in terms of young elemental shellfish. Originally, Lin Yuan had only wanted to trade for 7 or 8 infant elemental shellfish. Now that the Brahma insect's cage had taken the initiative to deliver itself to him, he naturally would not waste this opportunity. He planned to obtain as many young elemental shellfish from the Brahma insect cage through trade. After Lin Yuan's spirit lock spatial zone had evolved, he had tried his best to make use of the space in the spirit lock spatial zone. After putting in a large amount of wood and coral jade, Hu Chuanxin filled up the spirit lock spatial zone with the new shelves. However, for wood to become jade textured, and for coral jade to grow insect patterns, the consumption of pure spiritual energy wasn't much. Even though the spirit lock spatial zone was already filled to the brim, it still hadn't reached the spirit pool's limit of breaking down energy ores to release spirit chi. Gray did not need to consume as much spirit chi as before in the spirit lock spatial zone. This made the spirit lock spatial zone's spirit chi utilization even lower. Therefore, he planned to use as many elemental shellfish as possible to make up for the high-density spirit chi consumption in the spirit lock spatial zone. Otherwise, the high concentration of spiritual energy would be wasted. Lin Yuan naturally did not wish to waste any of the concentrated spirit chi that the outside world did not have. The high concentration of spirit chi in the spirit lock spatial zone was actually his capital to accumulate resources. At the same time, Qin Luan and Qin Yu needed the Extreme Night Jade Scorpion. On the Extreme Night Jade Sky Scorpion, Lin Yuan planned to ask if the Brahma insect cage had it. Lin Yuan had yet to use the Jasmine Lily's vitality energy, which came with its exclusive skill to stimulate the extreme night jade sky scorpion bloodline hidden in Qin Yu's body and awaken the beast pattern. Qin Yu was still young, so he wasn't in a hurry. However, Qin Luan had already awakened his beast mark and was 18 or 19 years old. Qin Luan, who had awakened his beast mark, did not have a contract with the extreme night jade falling scorpion, which was equivalent to wasting his talent. Lin Yuan had already taken Qin Luan into Sky City, so he naturally could not see Qin Luan's talent being wasted day by day. While Lin Yuan was on the phone with Brahma Scissorwing, the thin layer of snow that had fallen in the return from faraway manor had melted halfway. Walking on the snow, Lin Yuan, who had been sitting for an entire night, looked at the emerald color that had faintly broken through the blood-colored surface. It just so happened that when you had used the new flower buds that had just bloomed from the cinnabar sweet osmanthus in front of the courtyard, and the peony veins of the bronze/legend golden petals peony in the mansion, as well as the dew from the reflection sun king lotus that had been soaked with sun energy to brew a cinnabar peony tea. Although this cinnabar peony tea did not taste as refreshing as the Three Treasures tea, it had a bit more of the fragrance of osmanthus and peony. After taking a sip, it was like walking through a field of flowers and being surrounded by flowers. The cinnabar peony tea could be used to entertain Brahma Scissorwing later. Thinking of Brahma Scissorwing's attitude toward him on the phone, Lin Yuan could not help but shrug. Lin Yuan was really afraid that when Brahma Scissorwing arrived, he would be too embarrassed to mention the golden lotus brocade. Lin Yuan simply took out a pot of golden lotus brocade and placed it on the completely jade-made tea table. Lin Yuan felt that this hint was already obvious enough. It was equivalent to indicating to Brahma Scissorwing that he had the golden lotus brocade. Lin Yuan had his own considerations as to why he had only placed one pot of golden lotus brocade, and not 10 or 20 pots on the table. Lin Yuan still understood the principle of something being rare being precious. A pot of golden lotus brocade would also allow Brahma Scissorwing to properly evaluate the price of the golden lotus brocade beads. He would see what ratio the golden lotus brocade beads should be traded for with the young elemental shellfish. As for how many pots of golden lotus brocade beads should be traded, it was not a problem for Lin Yuan. The little fairy brocade could be said to be the biggest model worker in the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone. She nurtured golden lotus brocade seedlings in the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone day and night. Now Lin Yuan had accumulated nearly 100 golden lotus brocade seedlings, which were more than enough to trade with the Brahma insect cage. After Lin Yuan returned to the mansion, he personally brewed a pot of cinnabar peony tea and then brought Grey, which was wantonly absorbing the sunny weather in the sky, back into the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone. In a while, Brahma Scissorwing, an Emperor-class expert, would come to the mansion. If Lin Yuan left Grey outside, it would immediately expose the fact that Grey was a favored spirit. According to Mystic Moon, the Brahma insect cage had always been relying on her master, the Moon Empress. Even so, Lin Yuan could not be at ease if the Brahma insect cage knew of Grey's existence. First, end of this chapter. Chapter 1049. On the other side, after Fan Jianyi hung up the call with Lin Yuan, he immediately went to find the Brahma insect cage's current family head, Fan Linglong. He reported to Fan Linglong that he was going to meet the Moon Empress disciple. When Fan Ling Luo heard Fan Jianyi's report, his heart that had been in his throat all this time finally calmed down. His big sister had personally gone to the return from faraway manor to apologize to the Moon Empress disciple. Even the Moon Empress would be able to pass this matter safely. As long as the Brahma insect cage could rely on the Moon Empress, it would be fine. Seeing Fan Linglong's expression, Fan Jianyi was also relieved. These few days, his little brother had been worried about the trouble that he had caused. Linglong, I plan to bring Hanxing to the return from faraway manor. Hanxing is our Brahma insect cage's elder association's #1 among the younger generation, and has been nurtured according to the family head's model. This meeting with the Moon Empress disciple will be a good opportunity. After hearing Fan Jianyi's words, Fan Linglong thought carefully. Fan Linglong was extremely satisfied with Fan Hanxing. However, as a young man, Fan Hanxing was only 23 years old and still had some edges. He was filled with a sense of justice that an old man like him could not understand. If Fan Jianyi brought Fan Hanxing to meet the Moon Empress disciple, if Fan Hanxing said something wrong and caused the Moon Empress disciple to be unhappy, it would be a wasted trip. In that case, this trip would be equivalent to a wasted trip, and it might even have the opposite effect. In the end, Fan Linglong still nodded. After all, The Brahma insect cage was backed by the Moon Empress. Before knowing that the Moon Empress had a disciple, there was no need to consider this aspect. Now that the Moon Empress had a disciple, only if Fan Hanqing and Lin Yuan were on good terms could the Brahma insect cage and the Radiant Moon Palace have a closer relationship. After Lin Yuan drank 2 cups of tea, there were strange sounds of insects coming from outside the return from faraway manor. Without a doubt, Lin Yuan knew that Fan Jianyi had arrived. When Wen Yu heard the insects, she immediately walked out of her room and went downstairs. After seeing Lin Yuan, she said, "Young master, someone is visiting." "Young master, someone has come to visit. I'll go receive him." Lin Yuan nodded in response. He had told Wen Yu that Fan Jianyi was going to visit the return from faraway manor while he was cooking the cinnamon peony tea. Wen Yu was the most suitable person to receive an emperor-level powerhouse like Fan Jianyi. Wen Yu left the mansion and saw 9 insect species phase in the sky. Their abdomens seemed to have huge bells. These 9 golden insect species phase with bell-shaped abdomens were the Brahma insect cage's representative phase, the Brahma sound insects. The Radiance Federation's major factions knew that as long as the Brahma sound insects appeared, it meant that the Brahma insect cage's people were doing something. In the Brahma insect cage, the Fey carriages driven by the Brahma sound insects were divided into 10 grades. The chariot insect cage, which was controlled by 10 Sanskrit sound insects, would only be used when visiting the Leaning Moon Mountain's Radiant Moon Palace to visit the Moon Empress. The 9 Brahma sound insects pulling the carriage could be said to represent the Brahma insect cage's greatest sincerity to Lin Yuan. Fan Jianyi gave Fan Hanqing a few instructions on the Fey carriage, which gave Fan Hanqing a headache. He was chosen by the Elder Council of the Brahma insect cage and was appointed as the young master of the Brahma insect cage a few years ago. Fan Hanqing naturally had the cage of Brahma worms, which was a skill that none of the younger generation could compare to. Fan Hanqing had also followed the Brahma spirit cage to participate in the Great Night General Meeting. Fan Hanqing had a good impression of Lin Yuan from the very beginning, especially after he had become the champion of the civil and martial duels. Although Fan Hanqing did not cause any waves in the Great Night General Meeting, he had indeed participated in the civil and martial duels. Fan Hanqing still regretted participating in the civil and martial duels with such strange rules. If he had participated in the martial duels, Fan Hanqing felt that he might have been able to obtain a ranking and obtain rewards. Fan Hanqing might be a Class 3 Advanced Creation Master, but he admitted that his ability as a Creation Master was far weaker than his Combat Class Spirit Chi professional strength. Fan Hanqing had been tormented in the civil and martial duels. The test question that Fan Hanqing had drawn was the one that he did not want to draw the most. It was a test to heal phase with damaged roots. Coincidentally, one of the phase with damaged roots was a gold smelly beetle. At that time, the gold smelly beetle's carapace had been shattered, and its insect wings had been flipped. The smelly beetle had been in pain, anxiety, and nervousness. It had instinctively released extremely smelly farts to protect itself. After inhaling the smelly farts for nearly 20 minutes, Fan Hanqing had felt dizzy and could not even eat properly. Just as Fan Hanqing was about to put down the fei in his hand to heal the smelly beetle and stop it from farting, the civil and martial duels had ended the civil and martial duels. At that time, Fan Hanqing silently lamented in his heart, "Are the top 3 still human?" He had not even completed half of the test, and someone else had already completed it. After exiting, Fan Hanqing found out that the first place of the test was a youth that was only 17 or 18 years old. This youth was called Lin Yuan. At that time, Lin Yuan's name had left an indelible impression in Fan Hanqing's heart. Moreover, Lin Yuan and Zhong Zai's martial duel had been breathtaking. Especially Lin Yuan's final attack, which had made Fan Hanqing rather admire him. After finding out that Lin Yuan was the Moon Empress disciple, Fan Hanqing could not help but regret not trying to join that small group to get to know Lin Yuan. Now, he finally had the opportunity to get to know Lin Yuan. However, Fan Hanqing was very clear why he had come to the return from faraway manor this time. Fan Hanqing was already thinking in his heart about how he should approach Lin Yuan to gain Lin Yuan's favorable impression. When Fan Jianyi brought Fan Hanqing out of the fei carriage, he saw Wen Yu waiting at the entrance of the manor. The moment Fan Jianyi saw Wen Yu, he could feel the elegant temperament of Wen Yu. Fan Jianyi was simply too familiar with this temperament. It could be said that all the spirit attendants in the Radiant Moon Palace had this temperament when they were out working. This woman should be a spirit attendant. However, For a spirit-attendant woman to appear in the Return from Faraway Manor, it meant that this woman had an extraordinary relationship with Lin Yuan. Fan Jianyi, who was an emperor-class expert, had already pulled Fan Hanxing in front of Wen Yu. He warmly greeted Wen Yu. Wen Yu returned the salute and made a gesture of invitation. Young master personally brewed tea and is waiting for the two of you. Wen Yu's words allowed Fan Jianyi to have some confidence in his heart. No matter what, Lin Yuan had personally brewed tea for him, which meant that Lin Yuan did not blame him. This way, Fan Jianyi's heart was much more relaxed. The second was even more. End of this chapter. Chapter 1050. Fan Jianyi and Fan Hanxing followed behind and didn't dare to look around the Return from Faraway Manor's environment. It would be frivolous and disrespectful to look around during a visit. When they arrived at the entrance of the manor, Fan Jianyi and Fan Hanxing noticed a youth with an outstanding aura waiting at the entrance. When the youth saw the two of them, he smiled and spoke to them as though they were old friends. You are here. Come in and have a seat. It snowed last night, and the temperature dropped drastically. Have a cup of freshly brewed hot tea to warm your body. The youth spoke with a smile on his face. When he sat down on the water rhinoceros leather sofa, he poured 2 cups of fragrant hot tea from the white teapot. Fan Jianyi and Fan Hanxing didn't feel reserved when they saw Lin Yuan's warmth. Inside the house, there was a completely jade-textured golden bamboo incense burner that looked like the shadow of a crane flying under the light. Smoke was rising in spirals. Fan Jianyi and Fan Hanxing could immediately tell that the incense burner was burning with agarwood. Furthermore, it wasn't just ordinary agarwood. The agarwood was like a solid rock. With such a mellow fragrance, it was probably jade-textured. It might even be a jade-textured top-notch agarwood. Although Fan Jianyi and Fan Hanxing didn't look around, their eyes still touched the golden peony on the table, the red sandalwood longevity fish tank, and the golden lotus before them. It could be said that the decorations in the manor were unimaginably luxurious in a plain and natural manner. The bronze/legend Fae, the Brahma insect cage, also had one. However, the Brahma insect cage was something that a pinnacle class 4 creation master had accumulated over dozens of years of continuous enhancement of Faes. The golden peony was just an ornamental Fae, but there was actually a creation master who chose to enhance it. Just the creation master resources flowing on the surface of this manor were already shocking. The 5 fortune ranches in the red sandalwood longevity fish tank might be expensive, but it was just a common item for pinnacle factions. However, the 3 carps in the fish tank had the most pure colors. Each color seemed to be able to reach the origin of all things. Yellow, blue, emerald, green, purple, red, orange, black. The 8 colors of Qian Kuan determined the immeasurable. The 8 colors of formless gave birth to life. 8 colors and 6 blessings. The happy bat longevity mark on the fish's forehead symbolized a flood of good fortune. The Pan Chong longevity mark on the fish's eyes symbolized a bright future. The pine deer longevity pattern on the fish's fins meant that the pine deer lived together in spring. The golden pomegranate longevity pattern on the fish's abdomen meant that the pomegranate would blossom into 100 seeds. The zodiac orchid longevity mark on the fish's scales symbolized longevity, while the Jiangwu longevity mark on the fish's tail symbolized longevity. The everlasting rivers and mountains rune fell on the back of the fish, revealing its stature. 8 kinds of positive colors and 6 kinds of fortune and longevity runes flowed on the bodies of the 3 carps. Yen Shanha's lifespan was calculated, and he had endless blessings. What kind of auspicious beasts were these 3 carps? As an emperor stage expert, Fan Jianyi suddenly felt as though he had become an ignorant child who had just come out of the mountains. However, Fan Jianyi knew that he came from a top force, the Brahma insect's cage, so how could he be ignorant? It could only mean that the level and wealth of the youth in front of him were beyond his imagination. Fan Jianyi wanted to pick up the hot tea that Lin Yuan had just brewed to calm his nerves. However, as soon as the tea entered his mouth, it was as though thousands of roses and osmanthus flowers had bloomed in front of him. The fragrance of the flowers seeped into his mouth, and even the tip of his tongue was tainted with a fragrance that could not be dispelled. Fan Jianyi almost coughed when he tasted the tea. Fan Jianyi could tell that the peony used to make the tea came from the gold/legend gold petal peony placed not far in front of him. Fan Jianyi could not help but feel puzzled. Could it be that the gold/legend gold petal peony was not meant to be looked at, but eaten? Suppressing the various emotions in his heart, Fan Jianyi glanced at Fan Hanxing, who was sitting beside him and staring at Lin Yuan with a burning gaze. He coughed lightly. Fan Hanxing hurriedly took out a brocade box and handed it to Lin Yuan. Just as Lin Yuan reached out to take the brocade box, Fan Hanxing spoke. "This is an apology gift prepared by Grandpa and Grandaunt for you. I hope you can accept it." Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan did not open the brocade box in his hand. Instead, he placed the brocade box on the table and said, "That's right." That day, Senior gave Endless Summer a Creation Breed Phase Tree Core and a Pinnacle Myth 3 Slaughterworm. It's not appropriate for this junior to accept Senior's items. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Brahma Scissorwing could not help but feel a little anxious. One of the reasons Fan Jianyi had come to see Lin Yuan was to make Lin Yuan completely forgive him for his mistakes. It was just for a peace of mind. Lin Yuan's refusal to accept his gift of apology caused Brahma Scissorwing to be terrified. Upon seeing Fan Jianyi's insistence, Lin Yuan picked up the golden lotus brocade on the table and handed it to Fan Hanxing, who had just stood up but had yet to sit down. "Since that's the case, I'll take the item in this brocade box as a gift for you when you visit the manor. Take this golden lotus brocade stock as my gift to you." It could be said that after Brahma Scissorwing withdrew his gaze from the 3 Mountain River Eternal Life Carps, his eyes had been fixed on the golden lotus. Lin Yuan could see his burning gaze very clearly. However, seeing that Fan Jianyi had not spoken for a long time, Lin Yuan might as well help Fan Jianyi start the conversation. Lin Yuan's actions were equivalent to indicating to Fan Jianyi that he had many golden lotus brocade stocks. Giving a golden lotus brocade stock as a gift was nothing to him. Logically speaking, Lin Yuan could accept the brocade box that Fan Hanxing handed over with a peace of mind. However, while the Brahma insect cage was trying its best to curry favor with Lin Yuan also had plans to befriend the Brahma insect cage. Fan Hanxing looked at the golden lotus brocade stock in his hand, and used his hand to gently pinch its leaves. As an advanced Class 3 creation master, Fan Hanxing could immediately confirm that the rumors about the golden lotus brocade stock in the market were not false at all. The golden lotus brocade stock was indeed a cardinal treasure that could change a creation master's pattern. Upon seeing that his aunt, Fan Jianyi, had not spoken to Lin Yuan about the golden lotus brocade stock after receiving it, Fan Hanxing asked softly, "Lord Lin Yuan, do you have any extra golden lotus brocade stocks?" "Lord Lin Yuan, do you have any extra golden lotus brocade stocks? If it's possible, our Brahma worm's cage would like to trade some." Fan Hanxing's straightforward proposal made Fan Jianyi frown. They had only been here for a short period of time, yet they immediately brought up the topic of trading the golden lotus brocade beads. It was too obvious. Just as Fan Jianyi was about to say something to smooth things over, Lin Yuan spoke. "You're Fan Hanxing, right? I know you. The third one." Everyone felt that it was better to always give the main character the perspective, and at least give some of the main supporting characters a little more. End of chapter. Chapter 1051. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Fan Hanxing immediately looked at Lin Yuan in surprise. He did not understand how Lin Yuan knew him. Fan Hanxing was the young family master of the Brahma insect cage, one of the top 3 factions, and Xueqi was the young family master of the Rhine Lifeform clan. They did not participate in the Radiance 100 sequence selection. However, Fan Hanxing and Xueqi each received a Radiant Light Medal. They were qualified to participate in the Radiance Envoy and Radiance Knight Regiment selection. Compared to Xueqi, Fan Hanxing was much more low-key. On the contrary, Fan Han's younger siblings, who were born in the Brahma worm cage, were more high-profile in their actions. Fan Hanxing could not think of how Lin Yuan could recognize him. Just as Fan Hanxing was feeling puzzled, Lin Yuan said, "I saw your celestial stairway duels on Star Web. I happen to have some golden lotus brocade stocks left. It is naturally not a problem for the Brahma insect cage to trade them. I am in urgent need of some young elemental shellfish. I wonder if the Brahma insect cage has any in stock?" Lin Yuan was not lying. When he was free, he would always go to the Star Web Celestial Stairway video library to watch the duels. He wanted to understand the strength of the current younger generation. He knew that the Radiance 100 sequence members were all hiding their strength. Everyone wanted to fight for the Radiance Envoy's qualification to be in the top 10 of the sequence. They could not reveal themselves in the Celestial Stairway duels. After making this clear, Lin Yuan did not watch the Radiance 100 sequence members' duels anymore. Instead, he looked for some Star Web videos of duels that went all out to watch according to the comments on Star Web. Among them, Fan Hanqing's duel had left a very deep impression on Lin Yuan. Fan Hanqing had encountered a pinnacle king-class expert who was nearly 50 years old. During the duel, Fan Hanqing had been steadily suppressing the pinnacle king-class expert's too contracted Diamond X/Fantasy V phase. If Lu Jie did not have any more trump cards, Fan Hanqing would participate in the martial duel. Even Lu Jie could very well fail. Of course, such a situation would not happen, as Lu Jie still had more than half of his trump cards. Now that Lu Jie's insect queen controlled the key insect species Carcinoma Fei, Fan Hanqing would not have any chance. The Celestial Stairway recording of the battle between Fan Hanqing and the pinnacle king-class expert had touched Lin Yuan's heart. He had realized that the younger generation could be so powerful. It could be said that Fan Hanqing's Celestial Stairway video had invisibly spurred Lin Yuan on, allowing him to set a goal and stride forward with greater effort. Apart from Fan Hanqing's strength, his main Fei had also left a deep impression on Lin Yuan. Fan Hanqing's main Fei was a star dragonfly. Star dragonflies got their name because their bodies contained enormous wind and fire elemental energy that was as enormous as a star. Dragonfly Fays were the overlords among insect species Fays in prehistoric times. They were also the first batch of life forms to rule the sky. It could be said that almost all dragonfly Fays were abnormally sensitive to spirit chi. For example, the mist flame dragonfly that Lin had previously cultivated, which had awakened the bloodline of the prehistoric giant vein dragonfly, had the possibility of transforming into a star dragonfly after special cultivation. The Diamond X/Fantasy V star dragonfly that Fan Hanqing had displayed in the Celestial Stairway duel had not awakened the bloodline of the prehistoric giant vein dragonfly. It was not that Fan Hanqing did not want to, but that Fan Hanqing and the Brahma insect cage could not get the pure spirit chi of the prehistoric giant vein dragonfly that had awakened the star dragonfly. However, pure spirit chi was just a piece of cake for Lin Yuan. However, Lin Yuan was not a philanthropist. It was impossible for him to take the initiative to help others phase that could enhance and purify their bloodline. Therefore, Lin Yuan did not lead the conversation to the situation of Fan Hanqing's main Fei, the star dragonfly bloodline. What Lin Yuan had just said made Fan Hanqing and Fan Jianyi immediately show joy on their faces. Yes, of course. After proposing the exchange, Fan Hanqing did not say anything else. With his grand-aunt around, even as the Brahma insect cage's young family master, it was not good for him to trade with Lin Yuan on behalf of the Brahma insect cage. Although young elemental shellfish were rare, the Brahma insect cage, which had dominated the top factions for 30 to 30 years, also had some in stock. Young elemental shellfish could be considered foundational resources. However, the elemental shellfish could not be nurtured without high-ranked creation masters. Without high-ranked creation masters to nurture them, the elemental shellfish was just trash. Therefore, young elemental shellfish were not on the same level as the golden lotus brocade in Fan Jianyi's heart. Upon hearing Fan Jianyi's reply, Lin Yuan spoke again. Then how are you going to use the young elemental shellfish to exchange for the golden lotus brocade in my hands? Fan Jianyi probed. Lord Lin Yuan, I'm going to use 3 young elemental shellfish to exchange for 2 golden lotus brocade. I wonder if you think it is feasible? Upon hearing Fan Jianyi's words, Lin Yuan raised his brows slightly. Lin Yuan did not expect Fan Jianyi to be willing to use 3 young elemental shellfish to exchange for 2 golden lotus brocade. It could be said that Fan Jianyi's offer was far beyond Lin Yuan's expectations. If this was the exchange, he would be able to obtain 9 elemental shellfish that could continuously produce heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls for 6 golden lotus brocade. Others might need to think about it, but this was definitely a profitable deal for Lin Yuan. However, Fan Jianyi did not know what Lin Yuan was thinking. Upon seeing Lin Yuan raise his brows, Fan Jianyi's heart immediately thumped. Fan Jianyi had suspected more than once that he was too greedy. If he had known earlier, he would have used 2 young elemental shellfish to exchange for 1 golden lotus brocade. Fan Jianyi had offered 3 young elemental shellfish to exchange for 2 golden lotus brocade because the Brahma insect cage currently only had 6 young elemental shellfish. Fan Jianyi's expectation was to exchange for at least 4 more pots of golden lotus brocade. As one of the top 3 pinnacle factions, the Brahma insect cage occupied 70% of the Radiance Federation's insect-type Fey market. It also had a massive supply of creation master resources. The Brahma insect cage had a total of 4 Pinnacle Class 4 Creation Masters. The 4 Pinnacle Class 4 Creation Masters naturally had to be provided with a pot of golden lotus brocade. Fan Hanxing was the Brahma insect cage's young family head, and Fan Jenny also wanted to provide one for Fan Hanxing. Therefore, Fan Jenny had offered such an offer. Just as Fan Jenny was feeling awkward and did not know if he should change the offer, Lin Yuan said, "This price is fine." "That's a good price. I can give you 10 brocade golden lotus plants in exchange." Lin Yuan's words allowed Fan Jenny to relax. While he was overjoyed, he could not help but feel awkward. Apart from the 6 young elemental shellfish that the Brahma insect cage currently had, it did not have more young elemental shellfish to exchange for the 10 golden lotus brocade that Lin Yuan had. Chapter 1052. Immediately after, Brahma Scissorwing made up his mind. No matter how many resources he had to spend on the Brahma insect cage, he had to obtain 9 young elemental shellfish from the other factions to complete the transaction with Lin Yuan. If he had 10 golden lotus brocade tufts and the one that Lin Yuan had gifted him, he would have 11 golden lotus brocade tufts. He would be able to equip a Class 4 Creation Master or a Pinnacle Class 4 Creation Master with a full Brahma insect cage. Such an arrangement was equivalent to increasing the Brahma insect cage's high-class Creation Master resources by 20%. As for the problem of how to trade for the infant elemental shellfish from the other forces, Van Cliff didn't want to worry about it. Instead, he decided to leave it to his little brother, the Brahma spirit cage, to think of a solution. With the strength and status of the Brahma worm's cage, it would not be particularly difficult for them to obtain young elemental shellfish even when they were at their rarest. After making up his mind, Fan Jenny hurriedly said, "Lord Lin Yuan, I will let Han Shang return to the Buddhist insect cage to retrieve 6 infant elemental shellfish for you. As for the remaining 9 infant elemental shellfish, I will get Han Shang to send them to you within these 2 days." Upon hearing Brahma Scissorwing's words, Lin Yuan was overjoyed. It seemed like the transaction was a success. Lin Yuan had his own considerations for saying that he wanted to exchange 10 golden lotus brocade trunks for 15 young elemental shellfish. Based on his judgment of the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone, 15 Bronze/Legend elemental shellfish, which consumed large amounts of pure spirit chi, would enter the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone. It should be able to make the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone's consumption of spirit chi equal to the output of spirit chi from the spirit pool. In such a situation, even if Lin Yuan had more young elemental shells, he wouldn't be able to use them. "All right. No problem. I'll have to trouble Han Shang to deliver the young elemental shellfish to the manor." Lin Yuan's words made Fan Hanxing, who was about to leave the manor to retrieve the infant elemental shellfish, shudder. This was because Fan Hanxing could feel Lin Yuan's kindness toward him from the way he addressed him. This also let Fan Hanxing know that he had the possibility of becoming friends with Lin Yuan. Fan Hanxing intended to manage his friendship with Lin Yuan well in the future. After Fan Hanxing left, Lin Yuan noticed that Fan Jenny had been chatting with him, but he did not mention the golden lotus brocade stock again. Lin Yuan could not help but feel a little helpless. Why was the ambition of the Brahma worm's cage, or rather the Brahma Scissorwing, so small? 10 golden lotus brocade stocks are enough. In fact, Lin Yuan did not know that Brahma Scissorwing's heart was already blooming with joy after obtaining the 10 golden lotus brocade stocks. Lin Yuan had such thoughts because he had grasped the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone and could easily enhance phase to Bronze/Legend with his physique. Therefore, he was able to see the value of the golden lotus brocade stock and the preciousness of high-class creation masters. Fan Jenny was satisfied, but Lin Yuan was not. He also wanted to trade for more Law Origin crystals and the Extreme Night Jade Sky Scorpion that Qin Luan and Qin Yu needed. After confirming that Brahma Scissorwing had no plans to mention the golden lotus brocade again, Lin Yuan coughed and got straight to the point. Since Senior requires the golden lotus brocade, the Brahma insect cage has a huge business. We have 20 to 30 Class 4 Creation Masters. Senior, do you have any plans to trade for more golden lotus brocade stocks? Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Brahma Scissorwing, who had been secretly delighted that he had not only obtained forgiveness from the return from Faraway Manor, but also obtained 10 golden lotus brocade stocks, was shocked. He looked at Lin Yuan in disbelief and did not understand what Lin Yuan meant. Lin Yuan had mentioned 20 to 30 Class 4 Creation Masters. Could it be that each of these 20 to 30 Class 4 creation masters could be equipped with a golden lotus brocade stock? At the thought of this, Brahma Scissorwing's heart immediately surged with an indescribable surprise. It was like an ordinary person who picked up 500 yuan after school and immediately found out from their parents that their house had been demolished and moved when they returned home. It was as though they had become a multi-millionaire. It was still possible for the Brahma insect cage to trade for 9 infant elemental shellfish with other factions. However, when the elemental shellfish were abnormally scarce, it was difficult for the Brahma insect cage to trade for more. Such a trade was the same as other factions helping the Brahma insect cage. The Brahma insect cage could not be casually asked for, and it also required a favor. After knowing that the Brahma insect cage could not take out more infant elemental shellfish, Brahma Scissorwing probed. Lord Lin Yuan, taking out 15 infant elemental shellfish is the limit of our Brahma insect cage. Is there anything else that you need? When Lin Yuan saw Brahma Scissorwing's nervous expression as he desired to trade for more golden lotus brocade stalks, the corners of Lin Yuan's mouth curled up. The Brahma insect cage must have planned how to reverse develop the abyss world through the Class 6 abyss dimensional rift. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Fan Jian asked while trying to guess the meaning behind Lin Yuan's words. Lord Lin Yuan, do you mean to exchange the golden lotus brocade for the Brahma insect's cage's shares in the abyss? As he spoke, Fan Jian calculated the gains and losses in his mind. In the end, Brahma Scissorwing felt that no matter what they used to exchange for the golden lotus brocade stock, it would be a profitable deal for the Brahma insect cage. However, if he wanted to use the shares of the Brahma insect cage in the abyss world to exchange for the golden lotus brocade stock, he would have to calculate how much he had invested. The Brahma insect cage's Elders Council had decided to abandon the subsidiary projects that were still in operation while maintaining the Radiance Federation's insect market share. Instead, he focused on developing the abyss world. Under such circumstances, even if the Brahma insect cage developed 1% of the abyss world shares, it also represented a huge reserve of resources. Therefore, Fan Jian planned to first explain the scale of the Brahma insect cage's investment in the abyss world to Lin Yuan. This would also allow Lin Yuan to have a clear decision when proposing to exchange for the shares. If someone else had proposed to exchange the golden lotus brocade stock for the Brahma insect cage's shares in the abyss world, Fan Jian might not have agreed so readily. However, as the Radiant Moon Palace's young lord, Lin Yuan wanted to trade for the Brahma insect cage's shares, which was what Fan Jian wished for. This way, Lin Yuan would be completely tied to the Brahma insect cage. Later, when the Brahma insect cage encountered some problems, even if it did not trouble Lin Yuan, it would save a lot of trouble. As long as Lin Yuan revealed his cooperation with the Brahma insect cage, it could save a lot of trouble. If it had been before, Lin Yuan might have really considered the Brahma insect cage's shares in the abyss world. However, Lin Yuan, Gu Lang, Zhong Zhe, Long Tao, and the other 8 people had jointly established the abyss world's development faction. With his own faction, Lin Yuan, who could obtain the abyss world's resources, would naturally not consider the Brahma insect cage's resources anymore. Chapter 1053. Just as Brahma's imagination was running wild, Lin Yuan said, "Don't worry. If the Brahma insect cage plans to develop the abyss world through the Class 6 abyss dimensional rift, I believe the Brahma insect cage will have more and more law origin crystals. Law crystals shouldn't be of much use to the Brahma insect cage, but I'm rather interested in law origin crystals." With that said, Lin Yuan shook his hand and took out the law origin crystal bracelet that he had asked Xueqi to use the wood weaving house centipede's completely jade-textured silk thread to weave. He held the slightly amber-colored law origin crystal in his hand and played with it calmly. Fan Jian's brows twitched when he saw Lin Yuan's actions. At that moment, Brahma Scissorwing suddenly felt that Lin Yuan was no longer the champion of the Evernight Assembly's civil and martial arena. Instead, he was a hedonistic son of a rich family who loved luxurious items. Lin Yuan had specially asked Xueqi to make this bracelet weaved from the law origin crystals after the last trade with the Coiled Dragon Valley and Li Yun Avian Niche. On the one hand, this bracelet weaved from law origin crystals was equivalent to telling the other party what he wanted the law origin crystals for. On the other hand, it also implied that the law origin crystal was just a plaything in his hands. It could imperceptibly lower the price of law origin crystals. Upon seeing that Lin Yuan was so interested in the law source crystals, Brahma Scissorwing thought of the massive amount of law source crystals piled up in the Brahma insect cage's treasury. I wonder if Lord Lin Yuan thinks that 100 law origin crystals are enough to exchange for the golden lotus brocade in your hands? Upon hearing Brahma Jenny's words, Lin Yuan coughed lightly. Lin Yuan was truly a little surprised. Brahma Scissorwing's offer was more than 3 times that of Coiling Dragon Valley and Dawn Cloud Avian Niche. Back when he had traded the golden lotus brocade with Coiling Dragon Valley's Li Yun Yao Can, he had paid 30 law origin crystals for 1 golden lotus brocade. Of course, there was a prerequisite to exchanging 30 Law's origin crystals for a golden lotus brocade with Coiling Dragon Valley and Aurora Cloud Nest. The prerequisite was that Coiling Dragon Valley and Dawn Cloud Birdcage could only use the golden lotus brocade. He couldn't trade the golden lotus brocade stock. He did not want to set a precedent with the Brahma insect cage. If the golden lotus brocade were to fall into the hands of other factions from the Brahma insect's cage, it would definitely affect Lin Yuan's plan to harvest the major factions' leaks through the golden lotus brocade. 100 law origin crystals is a little too much. I only need 50 law origin crystals to exchange for a golden lotus brocade with the Brahma insect cage. At the same time, there's a prerequisite to this deal. All the golden lotus brocade tufts that the Buddhist insect cage obtains from me can only be used by the Buddhist insect cage itself. It can't be traded or lent to other forces. This condition also includes the 11 pots of golden lotus brocade that were previously confirmed. After Lin Yuan said that, Brahma Scissorwing immediately agreed without thinking. No problem. Our Brahma insect's cage will definitely not trade or lend the brocade golden lotus to other forces. After receiving Brahma Scissorwing's guarantee, Lin Yuan asked him, "How many more golden lotus brocades do you need for your Buddhist worm cage?" Seeing that Lin Yuan did not seem to take the golden lotus brocade seriously when he spoke, he thought of the massive law origin crystals stored in the Brahma insect cage. Fan Jianyi said tentatively, "Lord Lin Yuan, can our Brahma insect's cage trade 50 pots of golden lotus brocade from you?" Upon hearing Brahma Scissorwing's words, Lin Yuan felt a little speechless. "I asked you to raise it yourself, but you only raised a transaction volume of 50 pots. His ambition was too small. Back then, Li Yun Yao Can and Coiling Dragon Valley had traded a total of 600 pots of golden lotus brocade stocks with him. Lin Yuan and the Coiling Dragon Valley had an agreement with Li Yun Avian Can that they would deliver the goods 1 month later. Since Lin Yuan had decided to trade with the Brahma insect cage, in that case, it wouldn't be a problem for him to leak the information about Coiling Dragon Valley and Li Yun Avian Niche to Brahma Scissorwing. Fan Jianyi had probably already heard about Li Yun Yao Can and Coiling Dragon Valley trading for the golden brocade lotus. Of course, Fan Jianyi definitely didn't know that Coiling Dragon Valley and Li Yun Yao Can had traded the golden lotus brocade stocks with him. Otherwise, Brahma Scissorwing wouldn't have reported 50. 50 golden lotus brocade stocks isn't a lot. I've already traded golden lotus brocade stocks with Coiling Dragon Valley and Li Yun Yao Kansas. There's a first come, first served rule for everything. Even though 50 golden lotus brocade stocks isn't a lot, you'll still have to line up behind Coiling Dragon Valley and Dawn Cloud Birdcage when you trade." Upon hearing that 50 pots of golden lotus brocade was not a lot, Brahma Scissorwing immediately revealed a surprised expression. After all, he had only dared to say 50 golden lotus stocks after making a huge decision. Upon hearing Lin Yuan mention the deal between the Coiling Dragon Valley and Li Yun Avian Niche, Brahma Scissorwing asked, "Lord Lin Yuan, how many golden lotus brocade stocks did you trade with Coiling Dragon Valley and Li Yun Avian Niche?" Lin Yuan stretched out his hand and gently knocked on the table 6 times. Coiling Dragon Valley and Li Yun Yao Can's appetite is not small. The two of them have devoured 600 golden lotus brocade stocks. Who knows when the two clans will come to talk to me about the golden lotus brocade again. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Brahma Scissorwing was so shocked that his jaw nearly dropped to the ground. What were Coiling Dragon Valley and Li Yun Yao Can trying to do? Was he going to provide a golden lotus brocade for all the Class 3 creation masters in the clan? If the Brahma worm cage only obtained 61 golden lotus brocade stocks, the Coiling Dragon Valley and the Dawn Cloud Birdcage would split 600 golden lotus brocade stocks. The Dawn Cloud Birdcage and the Brahma worm cage were very different in terms of family properties. There was no comparison. However, with over 100 golden lotus brocade plants, the Coiling Dragon Valley might be able to surpass the Brahma worm cage in a few years' time. Thinking of this, Fan Jianyi hardened his heart and said, "Lord Lin Yuan, I wonder if I can trade 800 golden lotus brocade stalks from you? After Fan Jianyi finished speaking, he looked at Lin Yuan with some apprehension. He did not know if Lin Yuan would agree to the deal with him. However, when Fan Jianyi thought about how Lin Yuan could take out 600 golden lotus brocade plants to trade with the Coiling Dragon Valley and the Dawn Cloud Avian niche, he felt that something was off. He should be able to take out 800 golden lotus brocade stalks. Upon hearing Brahma Scissorwing's second bid, Lin Yuan immediately extended his hand toward him. Happy cooperation. I will hand over these 800 golden lotus brocade stalks to the Brahma worm's cage bit by bit after a month. Brahma hurriedly placed his hand on Lin Yuan's. At this moment, Brahma Scissorwing felt a little dazed. He never thought that he would be able to negotiate a deal for 800 golden lotus brocade stalks. This transaction volume was something that Brahma Scissorwing didn't even dare to think about. With these 800 golden lotus brocade stalks, Brahma Scissorwing felt that the Brahma worm cage would be able to break the current tripartite situation in less than 3 years. The Brahma worm cage would become the top faction in the Radiance Federation. This was also Brahma Scissorwing's lifelong dream. Chapter 1054. Lin Yuan had his own reasons for deciding to make a deal with Brahma Scissorwing for 800 golden lotus brocades. After trading the golden lotus brocade with Li Yun Avian niche in the Coiled Dragon Valley, he actually did not lack law origin crystals. It would still take a long time for the princess to completely digest the 20,000 law origin crystals she had obtained from the Coiling Dragon Valley and Li Yun, Kansas. The reason he wanted to enter such a large-scale transaction with the Brahma insect cage was that Mystic Moon had told him that the Brahma insect cage was backed by his master, the Moon Empress. In other words, trading with the Brahma insect cage was equivalent to injecting resources into his master's forces. It had imperceptibly increased the Moon Empress power. Another reason was that he did not intend to let the golden lotus brocade tufts flow into more factions in a short time. The influence of the brocade golden lotus needed time to grow. The cage of the Brahma insect represented the top forces, the Coiling Dragon Valley represented the middle and upper class forces, and Li Yun represented the lower class forces. The Brahma insect's cage, the Coiled Dragon Valley, and the Dawn Cloud Bird niche could replace the entire Radiance Federation's top factions in terms of hierarchy. After obtaining the golden lotus brocade stock, the Brahma insect cage, the Coiling Dragon Valley, and the Dawn Cloud Bird cage would soon rise up and develop rapidly. The other factions had only seen the cage of the Brahma worm, Coiling Dragon Valley, and Li Yun had become stronger after obtaining the golden lotus brocade stock. Only then would he be able to better understand the value of the golden lotus brocade stock. This way, the price of the brocade golden lotus would be even higher. Only then could he use the golden lotus brocade beads to better harvest the top faction's leaks. Furthermore, the 800 golden lotus brocade stalks that were traded with the Brahma insect cage and the 600 golden lotus brocade stalks that were traded with the Coiling Dragon Valley and the Dawn Cloud Bird cage. Lin Yuan had already sold a total of 1,400 golden lotus brocade plants. Even if little fairy Jean Say was a model worker, producing golden lotus brocade stalks in the Spirit Lock spatial zone day and night, the golden lotus brocade stalks were still not enough. It would take at least 2 months for the fairy to produce 1,400 golden lotus stalks. While letting the market ferment, Lin Yuan also wanted to accumulate a batch of golden lotus brocade pearls over time. In the next 2 months, he would focus on providing the golden lotus brocade beads for the Coiling Dragon Valley, the Dawn Cloud Bird cage, and the Brahma insect cage. Even if he wanted to continue trading, he could not take out more golden lotus brocade troughs. After selling the golden lotus brocade tuft in advance, he would no longer have to spend more effort on the golden lotus brocade pearls. He could leave everything to the market. This was because Lin Yuan still had more things to do. He didn't have that much energy to waste either. The 800 golden lotus brocade stalks traded with the Brahma worm cage could be exchanged for 40,000 law origin crystals. Lin Yuan wouldn't have to worry about the princess rations for at least 3 months. These 40,000 law origin crystals could bring him at least 4 nomological worlds and allow him to obtain 4 kinds of sword techniques. After discussing the golden lotus brocade stock with Brahma Scissorwing, he still had other deals to discuss with Brahma Scissorwing. Senior, your Brahma insect cage controls a large number of insect resources. I happen to need 2 special insect species phase. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Brahma Scissorwing's expression immediately turned serious. Lin Yuan was not someone who lacked money. If he needed any insect species phase, he could purchase them on Star Web. Lin Yuan didn't do so but mentioned it to him, which meant that these insect species phase were very precious. They definitely couldn't be bought on the market. Therefore, Brahma Scissorwing didn't take everything but asked carefully. I don't know what insect species phase Lord Lin Yuan mentioned are. If the Brahma insect cage has them, I definitely won't hide them. While speaking, Brahma Scissorwing was still complaining in his heart. I've already given you such a precious insect species fey like the slaughterworm. Could other insect species feys be more precious than the slaughterworm? As long as you ask, the Brahma insect cage has them and will definitely offer them to you unconditionally. I wonder if Senior has heard of the Extreme Night Jade Scorpion? Upon hearing Lin Yuan mention the Extreme Night Jade Scorpion, Brahma Scissorwing, who had been complaining in his heart, looked at Lin Yuan strangely. He felt that Lin Yuan seemed to know something. The Extreme Night Jade Scorpion was Brahma Scissorwing's younger brother and one of the main fays of the Brahma Insect Cage's current family master, the Brahma Spirit Cage. Not long ago, because the Brahma Spirit Cage's main fay, the Extreme Night Jade Scorpion, had given birth to two little scorpions, the Brahma Insect Cage had specially held a family banquet. However, this matter had only happened among the Brahma Insect Cage's core members, so it shouldn't have spread. It wasn't that the Extreme Night Jade Scorpion was precious, but its bloodline couldn't compare to the Slaughter Sky Butterfly, one of the three supreme bloodlines of the butterfly phase. At the myth breed level, fays could transform into human form and were no different from humans. The Brahma Spirit Cage's main fay, the Extreme Night Jade Scorpion, had reached the level of a creation breed. This matter concerned the offspring of a creation breed fay, so he still had to ask the Brahma Spirit Cage and its main fay, the Extreme Night Jade Scorpion's opinion. Brahma Scissorwing couldn't do something like promising someone else's child without their consent, even if it was the Moon Empress disciple who wanted to trade. Although he couldn't make a decision on his own, Brahma Scissorwing didn't hide it from Lin Yuan. Instead, he told Lin Yuan everything about the situation. Upon hearing Fan Jenny's words, Lin Yuan pondered for a moment before replying. Senior, I want two Extreme Night Jade Scorpions because I have two youths who have awakened the beast mark of the Extreme Night Jade Scorpion. Because of the beast marks, if these two youths don't form a contract with the Extreme Night Jade Sky Scorpion, it would be a waste of their talent. Of course, if the Extreme Night Jade Scorpion is contracted by these two youths, not only will its bloodline improve further through the influence of the beast marks, but it will also grow faster. In my opinion, this is a win-win choice. I hope Senior can go back and discuss this properly. If you're worried, you can let the Scorpion take a look at the two youths who have awakened the Extreme Night Jade Sky Scorpion's beast marks. Upon hearing that, the Brahma Linglong hurriedly replied solemnly, That's right. Lord Lin Yuan, I will immediately inquire about this matter when I return. I'll give you an answer within 3 days. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan nodded and thought of the 800 pots of golden lotus brocade pearls in the Brahma insect cage. The golden lotus brocade's effect isn't fixed. There will be more powerful golden lotus brocade pearls to be nurtured in the future. In the end, this junior is looking for Senior's help regarding the Extreme Night Jade Sky Scorpion. If the matter can be discussed, this junior can give Senior a guarantee. This guarantee is that when the golden lotus brocade pearls with stronger effects are nurtured in the future, Senior can have priority in trading with the Brahma insect cage. The first was even better. End of this chapter. Chapter 1055. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Brahma Scissorwing's eyes revealed a look of determination and ecstasy. No matter what, when he returned, he had to work hard on the Brahma Spirit Cage and the Extreme Night Jade Sky Scorpion. Actually, Fan Jenny felt that if the Extreme Night Jade Scorpion was smart enough, it probably wouldn't refuse to let its two children sign a contract with two youths who also had the Extreme Night Jade Scorpion bloodline. Moreover, these two youths were the subordinates of the Moon Empress disciple. Moreover, the promise he had just given was related to the Brahma insect cage's future. As one of the leaders of the Brahma worm cage, Brahma Scissorwing had to grasp the bright future no matter what. Your promise is too precious. If there's anything you'd like the cage of the Buddhist worm to do in the future, the cage of the Buddhist worm will do its best. Upon hearing Fan Jenny's words, Lin Yuan's expression froze. That was because he did have something that he needed the Brahma worm's cage's help with. This was the Warm Sun Fund that Eneen had set up on Star Web. If he could cooperate with the Brahma Insect Cage regarding the Warm Sun Fund, he would have the Brahma Insect Cage's offline resources and 70% of the market share for insect species phase. The Warm Sun Fund would no longer need to worry about insect species phase when helping spirit chi professionals. Lin Yuan briefly explained the Warm Sun Foundation's plan and goal to Brahma Scissor Wing. After listening to Lin Yuan's introduction of the Warm Sun Foundation, Fan Jianyi looked at Lin Yuan with a different gaze. Not only did Brahma Scissor Wing see Lin Yuan's identity and strength, but he also saw his noble and kind character. Fan Jianyi said, "I'll personally send someone to handle this matter. The Brahma Insect's Cage will cooperate fully with the Warm Sun Fund's development." Upon hearing Brahma Scissorwing's guarantee, Lin Yuan revealed a bright smile. A mouthful of white teeth made Brahma Scissorwings a little dazed. "Then I'll have to trouble Senior." At this time, Fan Hanxing walked in from the outside. When Fan Hanxing had been at the mansion's entrance, he had overheard their conversation about the Warm Sun Foundation. Fan Hanxing recalled what Lin Yuan had said about the Warm Sun Foundation. He could only feel an unknown thing surging in his heart. This thing was lively, passionate, and boiling hot, as if it could emit specks of radiant light. Fan Hanxing had always wanted to participate in the Radiant Sequence's 100 selection. Fan Hanxing wanted to become one of the Radiance 100's members and do good deeds when they were out on missions. However, due to his identity as the young master of the Brahma Insect Cage, Fan Hanxing could not show himself too much in public. Therefore, he was destined to not be a member of the Radiance 100 sequence. Now, that youthful enthusiasm was once again stirred by Lin Yuan's words. Fan Hanxing admired Lin Yuan from the bottom of his heart. This admiration had nothing to do with strength. In fact, even after understanding Lin Yuan's strength as a creation master and spirit chi professional, Fan Hanxing had not thought so highly of him. It could be said that he was now doing something that no one had ever done in the Radiance continent's long history. It was to allow all Radiance people who had the talent to become combat-class spirit chi professionals to be equipped with a suitable Fey according to their talent. It also allowed all Fays with damaged roots to become combat partners with combat-class spirit chi professionals after they were healed. This would give both sides a chance to soar into the clouds. But this matter was too difficult. Previously, the Dew Immortal Garden had opened up a second function in addition to plant Fays. It had established the Dew Medical. The Dew Medical had distributed resources on a large scale, wanting to help ordinary people and combat-class spirit chi professionals who could not heal themselves. Even so, the Dew Medical's effect was still very weak after being distributed to all parts of the Radiance Federation. This was because the Radiance Federation's territory was simply too big. There might be thousands of counties under a major city, and there were countless towns under the counties. With such a scale of resources pouring out, even the Dew Medical, which was operated by the Dew Immortal Garden and was a pinnacle faction, was still a little stretched. The resources poured out but not in, and there were no benefits to speak of for a profession like the Dew Medical. According to the information received by the Brahma Insect Cage, the original 3 Pinnacle Class 4 Creation Masters in the Dew Immortal Garden had always been quite critical of the Dew Medical. This was also the fuse that caused such a huge change in the Dew Immortal Garden after the death of the old master. However, what the Dew Immortal Garden could not do did not mean that Lin Yuan could not do it. Given Lin Yuan's status and influence, perhaps the Warm Sun Medical would be like a beam of light that could illuminate every corner of the Radiance Federation that could not be illuminated. It would be a light that could be found in the hearts of everyone who was oppressed by life and could not stand up straight. In Fan Hanxing's opinion, Lin Yuan's Warm Sun Fund was even smarter than the Dew Medical. The Dew Medical focused on ordinary people, and such actions could only be used for a moment. However, Lin Yuan targeted those ordinary people who had the ability to become spirit chi professionals. Only when these ordinary people stood up would they be able to better help the other ordinary people around them. It would solve the crisis that came from the mortal world from the root. Hot blood surged in Fan Hanxing's heart, making him a little rash. Great Aunt, let me follow up on the Warm Sun Fund. I will cooperate with Lord Lin Yuan. When Fan Jianyi heard Fan Hanxing's words, he could not help but feel a little helpless. Why is Fan Hanxing still so hot-blooded? However, it was also good. Letting Fan Hanxing follow up on this matter would also give Fan Hanxing more opportunities to communicate with Lin Yuan. Unlike Fan Jianyi, Lin Yuan's eyes flashed with a trace of a smile when he heard Fan Hanxing's words. Fan Hanqing's rashness and hot-bloodedness indirectly proved Fan Hanqing's character to Lin Yuan. This Fan Hanqing was very good. Big Brother Hanqing. Then I will look for you for insect resources from the Warm Sun Fund in the future. Don't worry, the Warm Sun Fund will be in charge of the funds. However, the Warm Sun Fund has yet to lay down the foundation for the offline channels. As for the offline channels, I hope Big Brother Hanqing can help me. Don't be stingy. Lin Yuan's address of Big Brother Hanqing stunned Fan Jianyi and Fan Hanqing. Fan Jianyi looked at the golden lotus brocade in his hand and recalled Lin Yuan's promise. However, all of this was perhaps not as precious as Lin Yuan calling him Big Brother Hanqing. These 3 words showed Lin Yuan's intention to befriend Fan Hanqing. This way, the Brahma insect cage would be able to get closer to the Radiant Moon Palace because of Lin Yuan and Fan Hanqing's relationship. Fan Hanqing was a heroic person to begin with. After hearing Lin Yuan's words, coupled with the surging hot blood in his heart, he immediately called Lin Yuan, Little Brother Lin Yuan. Fan Jianyi's eyebrows twitched when he heard Fan Hanqing's address. He thought to himself that this address was too arrogant. Before Fan Jianyi could remind Fan Hanqing, Fan Jianyi realized that Fan Hanqing and Lin Yuan were already talking about the Warm Sun Fund. The second part was even more interesting. End of this chapter. Chapter 1056. Upon seeing that Lin Yuan didn't mind Fan Hanqing calling him Brother Lin Yuan, Fan Jianyi was relieved. After sending Fan Hanqing and Fan Jianyi off, Lin Yuan opened the diamond face storage box that Fan Hanqing had handed over. When Fan Hanqing had gone to retrieve the items, he hadn't known that Fan Jianyi had exchanged 50 Law Origin crystals for a golden lotus brocade and 800 golden lotus brocade stalks. Therefore, there were only 6 live young elemental shellfish in the diamond face storage box. When Lin Yuan saw these 6 young elemental shellfish, he brought them into the Spirit Lock spatial zone without hesitation. He planned to enhance these 6 young elemental shellfish. Lin Yuan's Spirit Lock spatial zone currently had 1 scorching elemental shellfish, 2 celestine elemental shellfish, 2 aquamarine elemental shellfish, and 2 thick earth shellfish. The elemental shellfish only had 4 attributes, and it could be said that Lin Yuan had all the elemental shellfish's attributes. As for the light, dark, thunder, metal, and other attributes, it was impossible to obtain pure elemental energy with the elemental shellfish. If he wanted to obtain pure elemental energy like the light, dark, thunder, metal, and other attributes, he would need to find some special phase or even heaven and earth phase. Just like the blood brew grapevine's blood brew grapes, which contained pure blood energy. Therefore, Lin Yuan still had to choose from the 4 attributes of earth, fire, water, and wind for these 6 new young elemental shellfish. Lin Yuan would still be able to obtain 9 young elemental shellfish, so he didn't hesitate to divide the 6 young elemental shellfish. He decided to nurture 1 into a celestine elemental shellfish, 2 into scorching elemental shellfish, and the remaining 3 into aquamarine elemental shellfish. Lin Yuan had his own reasons for choosing this division. Among all the elemental shellfish that Lin Yuan had, the thick earth elemental shellfish produced was the elemental pearl that he needed the least. The Source Sand's demand for the earth-type heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls was almost negligible. The greatest consumption of the earth-type heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls was to restore the slaughter butterfly's bloodline. In such a situation, 2 thick earth elemental shellfish were enough. During the development of the abyss, it could be said that most of the rare spiritual ingredients produced were fire-type spiritual ingredients. Therefore, fire attribute heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls were indispensable. However, he only had 1 scorching elemental shellfish, and the heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls it produced were obviously not enough. Therefore, Lin Yuan decided to replenish it with 2 more scorching elemental shellfish. Lin Yuan didn't have any need for the celestial elemental shell. Currently, only the wind-speed rapid antelope and the incubating floating island whale were using wind-type heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. 2 celestial elemental shellfish could completely support such consumption, and there would still be a large amount left. As for the heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls produced by the aquamarine elemental shellfish, they might be the cheapest among all the heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls, but they were also the ones that Lin Yuan needed the most. This need came from 3 sources. They were the floating island whale, Blue Jade, and Lin, who was about to trade the heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls with him. The Azure Federation was an enormous federation formed by countless islands. It was rich in all kinds of resources produced by the sea. Correspondingly, the demand for heavenly maiden-grade water elemental pearls was the highest. Furthermore, the Azure Federation had opened a Class 6 water world dimensional rift that was connected to the water world. The rare water attribute spiritual materials collected in the water world also needed pure water elemental energy to ripen. Lin Yuan also planned to increase Blue Jade's strength as soon as possible. Therefore, Lin Yuan had made such a distribution plan. With the guidance of the various spiritual materials, Lin Yuan quickly nurtured the elemental shellfish of various attributes. Subsequently, Lin Yuan spent a few hours upgrading the 6 elemental shellfish of various attributes to bronze/legend without stopping. After sitting on the chair for an entire night and completing the transaction with the Brahma insect cage, Lin Yuan immediately carried out the work of enhancing phase for nearly 8 hours. Lin Yuan could not help but feel a little tired, and his head was also a little dizzy. However, after seeing that he now had 3 scorching elemental shellfish, 3 celestial elemental shellfish, 5 aquamarine elemental shellfish, and 2 thick earth elemental shellfish, he felt a little satisfied. Lin Yuan's heart was filled with satisfaction. Fan Hanxing would also send over 9 infant elemental shellfish within 3 days. Even without those 9 infant elemental shellfish, just the 13 bronze/legend elemental shellfish that Lin Yuan currently possessed would allow him to cope with the consumption of the heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls. Just as Lin Yuan was preparing to leave the Spirit Lock spatial zone to rest for a while, his phone rang. Lin Yuan heard an abnormally hoarse voice coming from the other end of the phone. Just as Lin Yuan was about to leave the Spirit Lock spatial zone to rest for a while, his phone rang. Lin Yuan heard an abnormally hoarse voice coming from the other end of the phone. From the hoarse and dry voice, Lin Yuan could hear a trace of forbearance. Lin Yuan could hear a trace of forbearance from the hoarse and dry voice. Hello, my name is Ji Feng. You told me to give you a call when I arrived at the capital. My name is Ji Feng. You told me to call you when I arrived at the royal capital. Lin Yuan was slightly startled when he heard the name. He had never heard of this name before. However, Lin Yuan already had a rough idea of who this Ji Feng was. At that moment, Lin Yuan heard the dry and hoarse voice say with some eagerness, "That's right. My name on Star Web is Floating World Sue's Calamity. My real name is Ji Feng. May I know when you have time?" Lin Yuan raised his brows. As expected, the person calling him was Floating World Sue's Calamity. Just as Lin Yuan was about to speak, he heard a muffled groan from the other end of the phone. It was followed by the sound of a heavy object falling to the ground, followed by Floating World Sue's Calamity's suppressed groan. Lin Yuan frowned when he heard the sudden change on the other end of the phone. It seemed like there were quite a few secrets on this herald of the world. After a long time, Lin Yuan heard the sound of someone getting up. On the other end of the line, Drifting World's voice spoke again. However, his voice became even drier and hoarser. Fujiwara's body was clearly collapsing from the intense pain, and even his voice was trembling from exhaustion. Presumably, the dry and hoarse voice of the Drifting World complaining of tribulations was also permanently damaged due to the excessive strain on the vocal cords. "Your soul is heavily injured?" Hearing the clear and pleasant voice coming from the other end of the phone, Yukiyoshi looked at his body covered in scars with a bitter expression and said with a bitter smile, "It's not as simple as my soul being injured. It's just that I can't quite put my finger on it." Upon hearing Floating World's words, Lin Yuan raised his eyebrows and said, "That's right. Since that is the case, go to the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association and wait for me." Chapter 1057. Lin Yuan was originally planning to have a good sleep before heading to the Radiant Moon Palace to meet his master, who had just returned from the Purple Bamboo Forest. Since Floating World's accusation of tribulation was calling, he dismissed the idea of going to rest. After helping Floating World pass the world cleansing, Lin Yuan would obtain a massive amount of spirit chi crystals. This meant that Lin Yuan's phase grade would receive a huge increase. Lin Yuan was already looking forward to this. In fact, compared to his other phase, Lin Yuan was looking forward to genius grade increase the most. The 50-100 questions beasts that he had obtained previously had already proved his idea. Genius could indeed transmit knowledge to the other 100 questions beasts through the interconnection tail. After the other 100 questions beasts absorbed pure spirit chi, they could also increase their grade and quality like genius. It could be said that because of genius, Lin Yuan controlled a creation master legion made up of 100 questions beasts. However, this legion wasn't without its drawbacks. Including genius, every 100 questions beast could only use their spiritual energy, and couldn't use their soul power to concoct the spirit fluid. This caused the 100 questions beast legion, including genius, to be stuck at the pinnacle of Class 3 creation masters. The pinnacle of Class 3 creation masters was enough for Lin Yuan to use. The pinnacle of Class 3 creation masters could already increase the grade of phase below myth breed, making up for Lin Yuan's shortcoming of not being able to increase the grade of high-grade phase. At the same time, the pinnacle of Class 3 creation masters could also concoct most of the spirit fluids. When creation masters reached Class 4, they wouldn't obtain the ability to increase the grade of phase. Instead, they could increase bronze phase to epic and use their soul power to concoct pure spirit chi to evolve the phase bloodline. They could also obtain precious resources like heavenly maiden grade elemental pearls and insect-patterned coral jade. Lin Yuan and the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone could easily create such resources. However, Lin Yuan still hoped that Genius or the other 100 questions beasts could use their soul power to concoct the spirit fluid. Even if Lin Yuan didn't need precious resources like bronze/epic phase and heavenly maiden grade elemental pearls. However, if the 100 questions beast legion's 100 questions beasts could reach Class 4 creation masters, it would give him more confidence when he went to the Divine Wood Federation. Lin Yuan didn't expect the 100 questions beast legion to become Class 4 creation masters. Lin Yuan hoped that the 100 questions beasts would be able to reach Class 5, which was above Class 4 creation masters. Given Lin Yuan's ability, he could not become a Class 5 creation master in the traditional sense. However, Lin Yuan hoped that he could nurture Genius into the Radiance Federation's 4th Class 5 creation master. Right now, he was using this opportunity to increase his wisdom. Genius was only at Silver Eye/Fantasy Eye, but it already controlled such a huge amount of mental strength. When Genius reached Diamond Level 10, its mental strength would increase by several folds. At the same time, 3 new skills would appear. The exponential increase in spiritual power and the new skills might unlock Genius's method of using spiritual power. Even if the other 100 questions beasts were unable to grasp the usage of soul energy, it was enough for Genius to grasp the usage of soul energy. When Genius became a Class 5 creation master, Lin Yuan might have obtained the dead sacred source lifeform's body. Genius could even use its Class 5 creation master ability to refine it into an artifact. It was precisely because of this thought that Lin Yuan did not even rest. He chose to meet Ji Feng, who was also known as Floating Calamity. However, it was impossible to rely on Lin Yuan's strength to help Ji Feng's 2 Pinnacle Myth 2 phase evolve into Myth 3. Moreover, Ji Feng's 2 Pinnacle Myth 2 phase were very special and could not be harmed by the world cleansing. Therefore, Lin Yuan needed to find help. The Slaughter Sky Butterfly and Endless Summer were good choices for Lin Yuan. The creation breed Endless Summer and the Slaughter Sky Butterfly could easily protect Ji Feng's Pinnacle Myth 2 phase under the world cleansing. They could allow Ji Feng's 2 special Pinnacle Myth 2 phase to successfully survive the world cleansing and evolve into Myth 3. However, the Slaughter Sky Butterfly had to protect the safety of Lin Yuan's foundation in the swamp world. Otherwise, if he encountered an enemy like the water-drinking venom snake vulture, the foundation that Lin Yuan had just established in the swamp world would be destroyed. Therefore, Lin Yuan could only choose Endless Summer. The Zheng family planned to launch a Blood Oath extreme duel against Sky City, and would definitely not have any ideas about the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce at this juncture. Moreover, sending experts to attack in broad daylight in the royal capital was a foolish action in itself. It was very likely that he would be thrown into the pond of cleansing, and repent under the whips of the cleansing weeping willow. Duanhe hadn't gone out yet. Duanhe's purple demon was an existence that could fight above its rank. Even if an emperor-level powerhouse were to arrive, Duanhe would not be instantly killed without being able to withstand a single move. With that thought in mind, Lin Yuan called Endless Summer. After Endless Summer picked up the call, Lin Yuan explained the situation to it. He made an appointment with Endless Summer to meet at the entrance of the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association. After hanging up the call with Endless Summer, he left the room and realized that it was already 3 p.m. Lu Jie was currently cooking dinner at home and picking fresh gold heart-nurturing bamboo shoots. He planned to make a bowl of bamboo shoot soup for everyone in the manor tonight. Lu Jie said when he saw Lin Yuan coming down the stairs. Lin Yuan, do you think it's better to add preserved meat or matsutake mushrooms in the bamboo shoot soup? Upon hearing Lu Jie's question, Lin Yuan chose the bacon without hesitation. Lin Yuan was a person who loved to eat meat, and he did not like all kinds of mushroom foods that were long or short. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's choice, Lu Jie replied with a smile. Coincidentally, last autumn, I took a few pieces of platinum dry land spiritual boar's pork and dried them into bacon. This cured meat has been air-dried for 4 to 5 months. It's the best time for it to taste. I'll add more dried cured meat into the soup. Upon hearing Lu Jie mention the cured meat made from the platinum dry land spirit pig, Lin Yuan felt that he was drooling. When Wen Yu, who was sorting out the Dark Federation's paper documents, saw that Lin Yuan was about to go out, she stretched her back and said, "I'll be back soon." Is young master going to the Radiant Moon Palace? I've made a copy of the Dark Federation's information. It's been sorted out. Lin Yuan shook his head in response. I will go to the Radiant Moon Palace tomorrow morning. As he spoke, he told her the purpose of his trip. Upon hearing that, Wen Yu's eyes lit up. Young master, why don't I go with you? It seems like I'm the only one in the entire Sky City who hasn't gone out on a mission. End of chapter. Chapter 1058. As Wen Yu spoke, she took out a special mask that represented her identity as a member of Sky City and put it on. Seeing that Wen Yu was so excited, it was probably because she was tired from organizing the documents for the past few days and wanted to go out and exercise. Lin Yuan naturally would not refuse. Looking at the mask on Wen Yu's face, Lin Yuan also took out his mask engraved with the majestic Sky City pattern and put it on his face. He originally wanted to use the ethereal jellyfish's ability node to teleport to the entrance of the Royal Capital's Creation Master Guild. Since Wen Yu wanted to relax, he dismissed the idea of using the node to teleport to the Royal Capital's Creation Master Guild. He picked up his cell phone and called for a Platinum Divine Travel Black Swallow. He sat on its back with Wen Yu and headed in the direction of the Royal Capital's Creation Master Guild. To be honest, he had not been touched by the Divine Travel Black Swallow for a long time, and he really missed it. Breathing in the cool air of the high altitude, Wen Yu stretched lazily, feeling very carefree. Just as he was about to say to Wen Yu, after the underground space opens the spatial tunnel from the Radiance Federation to the Divine Wood Federation tomorrow, you won't be so bored staying in the mansion. Just as he was about to speak, he felt that she had entered a special state. Upon sensing her state, Lin Yuan hurriedly shut up. He was very familiar with this state because it was the state of epiphany that he had entered countless times. After a full 3 minutes, Wen Yu finally recovered from her state of epiphany. Wen Yu immediately said to Lin Yuan excitedly, Young master, I comprehended a willpower rune from the freely scattered winds in the sky. Wen Yu was extremely excited as she spoke. Wen Yu finally had a second willpower rune and could have a second fantasy breed Fae. Lin Yuan said as he felt the willpower rune summoned to her palm. Wen Yu, you have an affinity with flying type support type Faes. Most of the Faes in this direction are suitable for you to comprehend willpower runes. I just feel that flying type support type Faes aren't very compatible with your current development direction. I suggest that you use this newly comprehended willpower rune on a suitable source type life form, just like the previous one. Upon hearing that, Wen Yu nodded in agreement. Clearly, he agreed with Lin Yuan's words. Wen Yu was currently taking the pure support route, but her pure support route was completely different from Gao Feng's pure support route. Gao Feng's pure support was purely for combat, while Wen Yu's pure support was for internal affairs. Only source-type life forms with various functions could meet her requirements. A smart person like Wen Yu often had the most intuitive understanding of herself in her heart. Therefore, after comprehending the willpower rune from the Freedom Wind, Wen Yu immediately knew what kind of source-type life form she needed to make her ability stronger and more perfect. Young master, I think what I need to improve the most right now is spiritual power. The increase in my mental strength will allow me to better control the sacred source life form, the heavenly body assembly. It will also allow my heavenly listening secret manual to record more information. The willpower rune I comprehended is suitable for almost all wind-related phase and source-type life forms. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan knew that she already had a goal for the source-type life form she wanted to contract. To be honest, Lin Yuan felt that when you could actually contract 100 questions beast. However, the willpower rune that when you comprehended was not suitable for the 100 questions beast. According to Lin Yuan's observations, the 100 questions beasts had all sorts of skills apart from their normal skills. A few of the 100 questions beasts that Lin Yuan had taken in had been upgraded to platinum. However, the elite and silver skills of these platinum 100 questions beasts were not the same as genius. Hence, if one you were to contract the 100 questions beast, one you would have to bear a huge risk. Moreover, the 100 questions beast could not increase the contractor's MP. Even if it was helpful to Wen Yu, it did not meet her needs. Lin Yuan asked, "Do you have any goals for source-type life forms?" Wen Yu pondered for a moment before replying. Young Master, among the Radiance Federation's top 3 factions, the Whale Ocean Trade is currently the faction with the most island whales. The Whale Ocean Trade has a lot of trade exchanges with the Radiance Federation's neighboring federations. Apart from trading, the top faction, the Whale Ocean Trade also has a secondary function of source-type life forms. The Whale Ocean Trade's Myriad Origin Hall houses a huge number of source-type life forms. Anyone who goes there can find the most suitable source-type life form in the Myriad Origin Hall's warehouse based on the willpower rune that their spirit comprehended and their own situation. The Myriad Origin Hall has a list of the top 10 source-type treasures. The source-type life forms on the list are not for sale in the Myriad Origin Hall. I have taken a fancy to a wind-type and spiritual-type source-type life form, the Wind Crystal Aquarius. The Wind Crystal Aquarius is an artifact-type source-type life form that is even rarer than elemental source-type life forms. The Wind Crystal Aquarius can convert the wind elements in the air into a kind of energy that is extremely nourishing for spiritual energy. This energy might not be able to increase spiritual energy immediately, but it can imperceptibly increase it. It will also allow me to obtain some means to use spiritual energy and wind elements. At the same time, the prerequisite for the Wind Crystal Aquarius contract is to have a wind-type willpower rune that hasn't been used yet. I also meet this requirement. It just so happens that I can contract the Wind Crystal Aquarius. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan raised his brows slightly. He naturally knew about the Whale Ocean Trade, which was one of the Radiance Federation's top 3 factions, and the Myriad Origin Hall under the Whale Ocean Trade. However, Lin Yuan had yet to have any interaction with the Whale Ocean Trade or the Myriad Origin Hall. It was just like how the Brahma insect cage was backed by his master, the Moon Empress. The Rhine life form and the Whale Ocean Trade were backed by a Class 5 creation master. The Rhine life form was backed by the Bamboo Monarch, while the Whale Ocean Trade was backed by the Chef Supreme. It could be assumed that the Wind Crystal Aquarius had been selected by the Myriad Origin Hall as one of the top 10 source-type lifeforms treasures list because it could strengthen one's spiritual energy. It allowed spirit chi professionals to contract the Wind Crystal Aquarius to be able to contract many fays. As long as there were enough resources, they could even create a sea of fays. They would truly be able to form an army with one person. However, Lin Yuan knew that although such a thing sounded cool, it was actually unrealistic. Even if Lin Yuan had such a huge amount of resources, nurturing the dozen phase and source-type life forms that he currently had made him feel the burden. End of this chapter. Chapter 1059. If a Fae wanted to evolve to the limit, it would need to strive to do its best at every stage of growth. The amount of resources needed to do the best job was unimaginable to ordinary people. This was also why experts with extremely high spiritual power often only nurtured a few signature Faes instead of relying on their massive spiritual power to contract a sea of Faes for combat. Even so, the source-type item, the Wind Crystal Treasure Bottle, which could increase one's mental strength, had an inestimable value. On the other hand, the prerequisites for contracting the source-type Wind Crystal Aquarius were also very easy. The Wind Crystal Aquarius was a wind-type source-type item, and its wind attribute willpower was the best choice. Those who had comprehended the willpower rune could directly sign a contract with the Wind Crystal Aquarius. This meant that the Wind Crystal Aquarius contract didn't have any prerequisites. There were many source-type items in the world, and it was probably because of these two reasons that the Wind Crystal Treasure Bottle was qualified to be included in the Myriad Source Hall's top 10 source-type items list. Although the Wind Crystal Aquarius vase was not for sale by the Myriad Origin Hall in the 10 Great Source Treasures list, it was not for sale. But when the price was high enough, there was nothing in this world that wouldn't sell. Of course, He would not use his identity to forcefully propose a deal with Whale Ocean trade. He planned to mention it to Zhongzhe when he met with Gu Lang, Gao Feng, Long Tao, and the others tomorrow. He wanted Zhongzhe to help him establish a connection with the Whale Ocean Trading Company. Then, he would exchange for the source-type item, the Wind Crystal Aquarius, from the Whale Ocean Trading Company. All of a sudden, Lin Yuan recalled that his master's contracted Cold Moon Lone Wheel was similar to the Wind Crystal Aquarius. It was a rare source-type item. When you leave the Wind Crystal Aquarius to me. After I get the Wind Crystal Aquarius, I still have a lot of Wind Elemental Heavenly Maiden Grade Elemental Pearls. The Aeolian Aquarius bottle uses the wind element to transform it into a nourishing effect for mental power. The quality of the energy is also determined by the purity of the wind element. With the Wind Elemental Heavenly Maiden Grade Elemental Pearls, the effects of your spiritual power will increase even faster. Upon hearing that, Wen Yu smiled in relief. Wen Yu felt that no matter what she said to him, he would be able to help her solve it in the end. She would always feel at ease by Lin Yuan's side. Wen Yu might be Lin Yuan's maidservant, but she was also Mystic Moon's disciple. Wen Yu's identity meant that she was nobler than the disciples of the top force's younger generation. Actually, even if Wen Yu wasn't Xian Yu's disciple, she was just a spirit attendant. When they encountered disciples of top forces outside, they would also need to salute her. While speaking, the Divine Travel Black Swallow had already brought them to the entrance of the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association. On the Divine Travel Black Swallow's back, Lin Yuan realized that the Royal Capital's Creation Master Guild, which was usually quiet, was unexpectedly noisy. When he looked down from the Divine Travel Black Swallow's back, he frowned. Ah, enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. Lin Yuan did not expect to encounter Zhang Kaiyuan here. In a short week, Lin Yuan had encountered Zhang Kaiyuan 3 times. And every time Zhang Kaiyuan appeared, it would be accompanied by a storm. The previous 2 times he had met Zhang Kaiyuan, he had used his identity as the Moon Empress disciple. Now, he needed to face Zhang Kaiyuan as the Sky City Lord. Zhang Kaiyuan's side was facing Lin Yuan with an enraged expression. Zhang Kaiyuan was followed by a person who looked like a follower. However, at a glance, it was obvious that this follower was wearing expensive clothes. The man's light green shirt was embedded with a few green and translucent olivines. If the olivines on this shirt were to be auctioned in the Star Web Rare Lifeform Pavilion, they would probably be sold for a high price of 500,000 radiance dollars. Just from the clothes, it was obvious that the man next to Zhang Kaiyuan had an extraordinary identity. But why would such a person stay by Zhang Kaiyuan's side and fawn over him? While thinking, Lin Yuan's brows were already frowning. Zhang Kaiyuan was just a disciple of a veteran faction in Indigo Azure City. In the complicated royal capital, Zhang Kaiyuan's identity was not considered much. For Zhang Kaiyuan to attract such a person dressed so nobly to fawn on him, it was certainly not because of him. Lin Yuan felt that it was impossible to say that it was because of the Miao family. Putting aside the fact that the Miao family had taken a liking to Zhang Kaiyuan, it was his intention. Back then, he had deliberately left Zhang Kaiyuan his phone number at the Dark Knight Assembly, allowing Zhang Kaiyuan to rise in the Miao family. If others wanted to fawn on the Miao family, they could just fawn on Miao He, who had just risen in power. There was no need to win over Zhang Kaiyuan. Presumably, Zhang Kaiyuan had used his banner to flaunt outside, which was why the green-clothed man was standing beside him like an attendant. At that moment, the green-clothed man was helping Zhang Kaiyuan kick the tall human figure that was lying on the ground and was trying hard not to groan. This tall human figure was wrapped in a huge black robe that could fit 3 people at the same time. Even if there were always people cleaning the entrance of the Royal Capital's Creation Master Guild, it was inevitable that the human figure would be covered in dust when lying on the ground. The human figure under the black robe looked a little wretched as it struggled. There were at least 20 footprints on the black robe. The green-clothed man must have kicked the black-robed human figure at least 20 times. Lin Yuan and Wen Yu had already gotten off the Divine Travel Black Swallow, while Endless Summer stood in the crowd and casually watched the show. Endless Summer, who was facing Lin Yuan and Wen Yu, saw them at a glance. After seeing the masks on Lin Yuan and Wen Yu's faces, Endless Summer was startled. Endless Summer did not expect Lin Yuan to wear Sky City's mask when helping someone else's fae through the world cleansing. Therefore, Endless Summer did not wear the mask that represented Sky City's identity in advance. Now that Zhang Kaiyuan was standing here, He had already seen his appearance. If Endless Summer wore a mask, it would be like painting a snake with legs. Therefore, Endless Summer simply walked in front of Lin Yuan openly. Lin Yuan did not want to have a conflict with Zhang Kaiyuan at the entrance of the Royal Capital's Creation Master Guild. After the Blood Oath Extreme Duel, one of the 3 veteran factions in Indigo Azure City, the Zhang family, would no longer exist. That would be the best time to deal with Zhang Kaiyuan. Just as Lin Yuan was about to take out his phone to call Yukio's complaint of calamity, Zhang Kaiyuan stepped on the face of the person in the black robe lying on the ground. This foot seemed to have stepped on the nose, causing the human figure under the black robe to let out 2 painful groans. Lin Yuan had not heard it clearly from afar, but now that he was close, he immediately heard that the person under the black robe was Yukio's complaint of calamity. Upon seeing this, Lin Yuan immediately stepped forward and pushed aside the green-clothed man, who was about to kick the human figure in the black robe again. Then, he raised his elbow and hit Zhang Kaiyuan's ribs, knocking Zhang Kaiyuan to the side. End of this chapter. Chapter 1060. Thinking about it, Ji Feng's current situation was the same as when he was on the phone with him. However, the interval between his call and now was definitely not more than half an hour. Half an hour of torture, wasn't it a little too fast? After sensing that Ji Feng, who was rolling on the ground, had stopped trembling, he didn't care about the dust on Ji Feng's black robe. He reached out and supported Ji Feng's arm. When he supported Ji Feng's arm, he was immediately startled because he felt that the arm he was supporting seemed to be full of thorns. When he pressed down, the thorns under the skin seemed to move faintly as though they had a life of their own. When he helped Ji Feng up, Zhang Kaiyuan's expression turned abnormally gloomy. He looked at Lin Yuan with a ruthless gaze. Zhang Kaiyuan had come to the Royal Capital's Creation Master Guild today because his mother, Miao Ji, would be rushing over in a while. Zhang Kaiyuan wanted to go to the Creation Master Guild and find a Creation Master that he had an appointment with beforehand to trade a few rare gems for Miao Ji's gift. However, he didn't expect to encounter a man who was hidden under a black robe at the entrance of the Royal Capital's Creation Master Guild. He even pressed on Zhang Kaiyuan's body while he was defenseless, causing him to stagger and nearly fall to the ground. Fortunately, he was supported by the person who had come with him, so he didn't make a fool of himself. Fortunately, he was supported by the person who had come with him, so he didn't make a fool out of himself. The person's elbow attack made Zhang Kaiyuan feel half of his body faintly numb, and the numbness was accompanied by intense pain. When Zhang Kaiyuan saw the appearance of the nosy person, he realized that this person was actually wearing a mask with the majestic Sky City's pattern. Zhang Kaiyuan was simply too familiar with this mask. The new and old hatred surged in his heart, causing his brain to rapidly surge with blood. If it wasn't because this was the royal capital, Zhang Kaiyuan would have disregarded everything and attacked Lin Yuan. The green-clothed man beside Zhang Kaiyuan didn't have a good expression after being pushed. However, the green-clothed man didn't flare up immediately. Instead, he looked at Zhang Kaiyuan. He wanted to see how Zhang Kaiyuan would deal with the current situation so that he could follow Zhang Kaiyuan's intentions and curry favor with him. In the end, the green-clothed man discovered that Zhang Kaiyuan did not immediately attack, which surprised the green-clothed man. The green-robed man carefully looked at Zhang Kaiyuan's expression and immediately confirmed that Zhang Kaiyuan and the young man wearing the majestic sky mask knew each other. At this moment, the green-clothed man heard Zhang Kaiyuan say through gritted teeth, "Hee, I didn't expect the Lord of Sky City to attack someone in the royal capital." What does the Lord of Sky City mean? I need you to give me an explanation. Currently, his grandfather had yet to arrive in the capital, even though the Zheng family had already held a meeting to confirm this Blood Oath extreme battle. However, his grandfather was the head of the Zheng family. If his grandfather wasn't here, he wouldn't be able to apply for a Blood Oath extreme battle. Since they were going to carry out the Blood Oath extreme battle, it was reasonable to say that the new and old grudges should wait until the Blood Oath extreme battle to be settled with life and death. However, Zhang Kaiyuan, who had suffered a blow, did not intend to let the matter rest. Upon hearing Zhang Kaiyuan's words, Lin Yuan replied, "You just hit my people. You should be the one to give me an explanation." His words made Ji Feng, who was being helped up by him, tremble slightly as though his heart had been touched by these words. Zhang Kaiyuan was so angry that he laughed. Just as Zhang Kaiyuan was about to open his mouth to curse, the green-clothed man had already taken the initiative to speak first. It was your people who bumped into young Master Zhang first, causing him to almost fall. Why don't the two of you listen to my advice and let this matter go? I also kicked your people a few times just now to help young Master Zhang. I'd like to apologize first. I'm willing to compensate accordingly. Sky City had long become a topic of discussion on Star Web. The green-clothed man had naturally heard of Sky City, and his clan would send people to spend Radiance dollars to draw Sky City's fate letter every day. They hoped to get the opportunity to customize a bronze/epic Fae according to the willpower rune. The green-clothed man was called Rong Fei, and he came from the Rong family, a pinnacle faction, Molten Fire Ranch. The pinnacle faction, Molten Fire Pasture, nurtured a large number of fire element spiritual ingredients and Faes. The Rong family's Molten Fire Pasture was considered a bottom-tier existence among the pinnacle factions and had always been on par with Gao Feng's Gao family. In recent years, the Gao family had been thinking about developing the resources under the sea and had gained a lot. In addition, His Excellency Cicada Cry had accepted Gao Feng as a disciple during the Nix conference, causing the entire Gao family to rise in status. The Rong family was very envious. The Abyss world had opened, and it would produce a large number of fire element spiritual ingredients. The increase in fire element spiritual ingredients would definitely have a huge impact on the pinnacle faction, Molten Fire Pasture. The increase in fire element spiritual ingredients in the market would cause their prices to plummet, causing the resources controlled by Molten Fire Pasture to decrease by several times. Right now, it was time for the Molten Fire Pasture to save itself and seek a transformation. Therefore, Rong Fei, as a core member of the Molten Fire Pasture's younger generation, would curry favor with Zhang Kaiyuan, who came from a veteran faction, just for a chance to speak to the Moon Empress disciple. After a few days of contact, Rong Fei was extremely disgusted with Zhang Kaiyuan. Compared to the illusory chance to get to know the Moon Empress disciple by currying favor with Zhang Kaiyuan, Sky City's creation master resources were more practical. After thinking it through, Rong Fei was obviously with Zhang Kaiyuan, but he was siding with Sky City. He even expressed his sincerity in apologizing and compensating for the previous few kicks. It could be said that when Rong Fei said these words, he had already lowered his status in order to give Zhang Kaiyuan and Lin Yuan a way out. In Rong Fei's opinion, even if there was a conflict, they could settle it privately. They were all respectable people, and it was not good to cause trouble in front of the Royal Capital's Creation Master Guild. While Rong Fei was speaking, Lin Yuan took 2 more glances at him. Before Lin Yuan could say anything, Zhang Kaiyuan sneered and said, "Let it go? Let it go? How do you want to let it go? Sky City's head is so hard. Aren't you afraid that it will be smashed and a disaster will befall you?" Upon hearing Zhang Kaiyuan's words, Rong Fei's face immediately darkened. Rong Fei did not expect Zhang Kaiyuan to completely ignore the way he had used his face to give him a way out. Since Zhang Kaiyuan wanted to cause trouble and did not give him face, Rong Fei thought that he might as well help Zhang Kaiyuan add fuel to the fire. He wanted to see what Zhang Kaiyuan could do and also test Sky City's confidence. Yes, young Master Zhang knows the Moon Empress disciple. I heard that he even invited Lord Lin Yuan to have a meal at the Spirit Food Pavilion not long ago. End of this chapter. Chapter 1061. Rong Fei's words made when Yu and Endless Summer's expressions turned strange. They looked at Zhang Kaiyuan as though they were looking at a fool. When Zhang Kaiyuan heard Rong Fei's words that did not match the facts, he did not refute and raised his head instead. His aura suddenly became more arrogant, as though Rong Fei's words had added some kind of halo to Zhang Kaiyuan. Lin Yuan's eyes were cold, but he asked Zhang Kaiyuan with a teasing tone. "Oh, he had a meal with the Moon Empress disciple? That's interesting. I wonder if Lin Yuan knows that he had a meal with you?" Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Zhang Kaiyuan's expression changed slightly, and an inconspicuous guilty expression flashed across his face. However, Zhang Kaiyuan quickly straightened his neck again. It was impossible for someone to personally look for the Moon Empress disciple, Lin Yuan, to confirm such a matter. That day at the Royal Capital's Spirit Food Pavilion, he had indeed stood with Lin Yuan, and Lin Yuan was willing to listen to him. He had chatted with him for several minutes. Anyway, the words came out of Rong Fei's mouth, not his. Even if someone asked, he just had to change the topic and not admit it. While Zhang Kaiyuan was thinking, he heard Lin Yuan continue speaking. The Sky City's imminent disaster is even more interesting. Is it because of you? The Sky City's head is not very iron, but not anyone can break it. When Rongfei heard Lin Yuan's words, he felt that this youth wearing the majestic Sky City's patterned mask had a majestic confidence in his words. His words were like a mountain, and each sentence was dragged by the earth. It was not weak at all. His words did not have any intention of putting Zhang Kaiyuan in his eyes at all. Rongfei even had an illusion that when he mentioned Lin Yuan, this youth wearing the majestic Sky City's patterned mask seemed to be more familiar with him than Zhang Kaiyuan. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's mockery, Zhang Kaiyuan could not hold it in anymore. The moment he opened his mouth, two unusually classic curses came out. However, before Zhang Kaiyuan could curse a second time, Lin Yuan stepped forward and swung his fist, hitting Zhang Kaiyuan's mouth. After going through the silver stamen gold luster Kashinector's baptism, Lin Yuan's physical body's toughness had almost reached the limits of humans. In addition, he had mastered almost all the combat techniques and martial arts moves in the Star Web and the Hidden Moon Pavilion through the muscle memory grass's roots. As a result, the punch he had just thrown was not light. Zhang Kaiyuan was thrown to the ground by Lin Yuan's punch. Zhang Kaiyuan, who had fallen to the ground, covered his mouth with his hand, and his eyes became dazed. He seemed to have been stunned by Lin Yuan's sudden punch. After a moment, Zhang Kaiyuan came back to his senses and looked at Lin Yuan with eyes filled with madness and resentment. Zhang Kaiyuan's mouth was numb, but through his tongue, Zhang Kaiyuan felt that more than half of his teeth had fallen out from the punch. This time, Zhang Kaiyuan did not bring any experts with him. Looking at Wan Yu and Endless Summer, Zhang Kaiyuan did not dare to take the initiative to start a conflict. Zhang Kaiyuan could only wait for the Blood Oath duel to begin in Sky City. Zhang Kaiyuan, whose hatred for Lin Yuan and Sky City had reached the peak, decided that even if he had to beg, he would ask his grandfather for an Emperor-class expert to hold the line. He had to ensure that all the Sky City experts participating in the Blood Oath duel died. After the punch, Lin Yuan helped Ji Feng, Endless Summer, and Wen Yu into the Royal Capital's Creation Master Guild. He was going to open a breeding room and take a look at the exact situation of the floating world's complaint. He also wanted to understand why the two contracted fays were so delicate that they could not even withstand a single blow from the world cleansing. After Lin Yuan entered the Creation Master Guild, Zhang Kaiyuan got up from the ground. When he turned around, Zhang Kaiyuan found that Rongfei, who had been following him, had disappeared. After seeing Zhang Kaiyuan not fighting back immediately after receiving a blow, Rongfei gave up the intention of befriending Zhang Kaiyuan. Rongfei did not see the slightest trace of manliness in Zhang Kaiyuan. Rongfei did not believe that the Moon Empress disciple would like someone that even he did not like. Seeing that Sky City's City Lord did not intend to pursue the matter, it was not a good opportunity for him to get to know Sky City's City Lord. Rongfei left the entrance of the Royal Capital's Creation Master Guild, and was going to find a few girls to invite a few friends to continue being his young master Rong. Zhang Kaiyuan grumbled and spat out half of his teeth. He then waved his hand to summon his Flying Fae. When he stood on the Flying Fae's back, Zhang Kaiyuan took a few glances at the Royal Capital's Creation Master Guild. Each glance was more resentful and crazy than the last. After a few glances, Zhang Kaiyuan headed toward the Beast Creation Garden without looking back. He did not even need to care about the Creation Master who had previously made an appointment to trade rare gems. After entering the Creation Master Guild, he used the Class 2 Creation Master's standard crest and smoothly opened a breeding room for Class 2 Creation Masters. Ji Feng, who had been coveted by Lin Yuan for a moment, could now stand up straight. Ji Feng thanked Lin Yuan in a hoarse and dry voice. At the same time, he helped himself to the staircase in the corridor. Upon seeing this, Lin Yuan did not continue to support Ji Feng and slowed down. It allowed the exhausted Ji Feng to keep up with Lin Yuan's pace. When Lin Yuan slowed down, Wen Yu and Endless Summer immediately knew his intention. No matter who it was, Lin Yuan seemed to be able to understand others' difficulties. He would also inadvertently reveal his gentle side. This Lin Yuan was truly beautiful and charming. Wen Yu and Endless Summer also slowed down with Lin Yuan's pace. When Ji Feng staggered up the staircase with the help of the staircase, he lifted his head to look at Lin Yuan's back. His pale and weak face revealed a smear of deep gratitude. Ever since the sudden change, Ji Feng could not remember how long it had been since someone treated him as one of their own. As an Emperor-class expert, Ji Feng was also an all-powerful figure before the sudden change. If he encountered a veteran faction's disciple like Zhang Kaiyuan who punched and kicked him, Ji Feng could simply make a move and kill him. The strongest expert in Indigo Azure City's veteran faction, the Zhang family, was only a Pinnacle Emperor-class expert. Even if Ji Feng could not defeat a Pinnacle Emperor-class expert with a Pinnacle Suzerain/Myth 3 Fei, with his 2 special Feis, Ji Feng could easily obtain the protection of a Pinnacle faction. However, all of this was in the distant past. Ji Feng, whose body had become like this, would not dare to use his spiritual energy to summon his 2 Feis unless he encountered a life-and-death situation. Once Ji Feng used his spiritual energy, that unknown thing in his body would act. Once that thing in his body acted, Ji Feng would receive 3 layers of pain from his body, mind, and soul. End of this chapter. Chapter 1062. In fact, Ji Feng had found Lin Yuan through the trade news on StarWeb because he had endured this life without hope for a long time. He wanted to take a gamble and see if his 2 Feis could help him suppress that terrifying thing in his body when they reached Myth 3. If it really did not work, Ji Feng could rely on his 2 Myth 3 Feis to do things that he could not do before but had to do. Logically speaking, Ji Feng's 2 Feis had reached Myth 2, and they should be able to transform into human form. The humanoid Fei could stay by Ji Feng's side and protect him in reality. It was a pity that Ji Feng's 2 Feis were plant species and could only transform into human form at Myth 3. Ji Feng, who had fallen from the clouds for a long time and felt the pain of the mortal world, had forgotten how long it had been since he had felt the warmth of human nature. Lin Yuan's "my man" was like a beam of light that illuminated Ji Feng's gloomy and dusty heart. At that moment, the youth wearing the majestic Sky City's pattern had slowed down his pace, which was the most gentle respect for him. After the 4 of them entered the Class 2 Creation Master's breeding room, Lin Yuan picked up the hot tea that the Creation Master Association had prepared in advance and poured 4 cups. He handed 1 cup to Endless Summer and 1 to Wen Yu before handing the 3rd cup to Ji Feng. After Ji Feng took the tea, Lin Yuan picked up the teacup and took a sip. He, who was used to drinking the Manor's 3 Treasures tea and cinnamon peony tea, found it a little difficult to drink the reception tea prepared by the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association. Even though the Creation Master Association's reception tea was expensive outside, many people even wanted to spend a high price to request for the reception tea in the Creation Master Association's breeding room through the Creation Master Association's Creation Master Association. However, Lin Yuan, who was used to precious spirit tea, tasted the reception tea that ordinary people regarded as treasures. He could easily point out at least 7 or 8 shortcomings of the reception tea with just 1 taste. Unknowingly, Lin Yuan now had the ability of a tea master. He had not deliberately learned this ability, but he had subtly grasped it in his daily life. However, Ji Feng had not drunk this spirit tea for a long time, which made it difficult for Lin Yuan to drink. Smelling the fragrance of the tea, Ji Feng's taste buds recalled the familiar taste that he used to dislike. Ji Feng, who had been holding the teacup for a while, did not drink the spirit tea in the cup. Instead, he spoke in a dry and hoarse voice. "Thank you, my lord." Ji Feng's dry and hoarse voice sounded muffled when he said the 3 words, "thank you." It was as if he had been wronged. Upon hearing Ji Feng's thanks, Lin Yuan raised his brows. "I didn't know about your condition beforehand. If I knew that your body was abnormal, I wouldn't have asked you to gather at the entrance of the Royal Capital's Creation Master Association. All right, now that there are no outsiders in the house, you can take off the heavy robe you're wearing." Upon hearing that, Ji Feng's hand that was holding the teacup suddenly clenched tightly. "Sir, my skin is a little ugly. If I take it off, it might scare you." Wen Yu and Endless Summer looked at Ji Feng curiously. He did not understand what was wrong with Ji Feng's skin for him to say such frightening words. Spirit Chi professionals had seen blood in battles, and they had seen all kinds of disgusting things when killing dimensional life forms. Therefore, it was hard to be scared. As an Emperor stage expert, Ji Feng would definitely be aware of this. Upon hearing Ji Feng's words, Lin Yuan felt a different emotion from Ji Feng's words. This emotion was very similar to inferiority. Based on this emotion, Lin Yuan knew that Ji Feng was very concerned about his body's abnormality. Then, Lin Yuan recalled that when he had helped Ji Feng up, there had been a sharp touch on Ji Feng's body. He said, "You said that your 2 Suzerain/Myth 2 Feis can't receive any attack under the creation calamity. I even found a monarch-class creation breed expert for you. Problems are meant to be solved. If there's anything, you can say it first and see if it can be solved. If it really can't be solved, I can always think of the most suitable way to alleviate it. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Ji Feng, who had his head lowered under the black cloak, suddenly looked up. His body began to tremble, as if he had grasped onto a ray of hope in the midst of despair. Although Ji Feng had made an agreement with Lin Yuan on Star Web, and Lin Yuan had taken on the matter and given a promise, Ji Feng had not expected Lin Yuan to do so. However, Ji Feng didn't dare to fully believe Lin Yuan's words. Or rather, he didn't dare to let himself believe in a hopeful future. This was because Ji Feng knew that he was in the midst of the most difficult struggle. If he comforted himself with hope, he would no longer have a reason to persevere. Now, Lin Yuan's words had truly allowed Ji Feng to touch the light of hope. This feeling of solidity made Ji Feng's face, which was under the black cloak, instantly brim with tears. Ji Feng couldn't solve the unknown and terrifying thing inside his body. However, with an Emperor-class expert around, Ji Feng felt that not only could his two-phase smoothly reach Myth 3, even the abnormality in his body was very likely to be cured successfully. With that thought, Ji Feng took his hand out of the cloak. When Ji Feng took his hand out of the cloak, Lin Yuan, Endless Summer, and Wenyu's pupils suddenly shrank. What kind of hand is this? Ji Feng's exposed hands were covered with fine nail scars that seemed to be connected to his bones. Every slight movement of his palm would cause the scars all over his hand to wander slightly. When the palm exerted force and the skin thinned, the nail scars protruded like bone spurs growing on the inside of the skin. As Ji Feng took off his cloak, Lin Yuan, Wenyu, and Endless Summer realized that it wasn't just his hand. His forearm was also in the same situation. Ji Feng's body was completely exposed after he took off his black cloak with both hands. Ji Feng was wearing a very ordinary and worn-out black spirit chi clothing, but all of Ji Feng's exposed skin was full of nail scars. There seemed to be more nail scars on his neck than on his body, and there was a thick layer of nail scars. There was a thick layer of nail scars on his neck that was like a dividing line. Uncharacteristically, Ji Feng's face above his neck didn't have any nail scars. Ji Feng looked young, and his voice wasn't as loud as it sounded. Even though he looked mature, he was at most in his 30s or 40s. Ji Feng had thick eyebrows, big eyes, and a high nose bridge. He was a classic handsome uncle. His looks would definitely surpass most of his peers. However, the nail scars on his body made Ji Feng look abnormally strange and sinister. He was like a living dead with a strange parasite in his body. End of this chapter. Chapter 1063. Before Ji Feng could speak, Endless Summer had already stood up with a gloomy expression. Endless Summer frowned as she sensed Ji Feng's aura. Why is there an aura of plants in your body? The aura of this plant is very strange. I can only sense it when I operate the law world. Moreover, the aura of this plant is constantly eroding your body, as if it wants to control your thoughts. When Endless Summer first saw Ji Feng in the royal capital, she did not feel anything strange about him. If it wasn't for the fact that Ji Feng's cloak was too terrifying, causing Endless Summer to subconsciously circulate the Enlightenment World's power to examine Ji Feng's body, Endless Summer would never discover anything strange about Ji Feng. This meant that the plant aura hidden in Ji Feng's body was of a higher level than his. He could only sense this aura when he used the power of the Rule World to investigate carefully. This discovery made Endless Summer's heart skip a beat. Such a powerful aura was hidden within the body of an Emperor-level powerhouse, persecuting an Emperor-level powerhouse, and causing him to fall to such a state. What exactly did he want? Moreover, this kind of thing could only be detected by an Emperor-stage powerhouse. Without an Emperor-stage powerhouse, this kind of thing could be perfectly hidden. No matter how he thought about it, this was an extremely dangerous and terrifying matter. Upon hearing Endless Summer's words, Lin Yuan and Wenyu immediately thought of Endless Summer's worries. Lin Yuan and Wenyu exchanged glances, and through her eyes, he could see the worry in her heart. His encounter with Ji Feng could be said to be equivalent to running into an incredible secret. Upon hearing Endless Summer's words, Ji Feng looked at the scars on his hands. You're right. Although I don't know what's inside my body, I know that it's alive. The power that we Spirit Chi professionals control is Spirit Chi. When this strange thing entered my body, I used the spirit chi of an S-rank spirit chi professional to resist it. But in the end, I found that this strange thing didn't react to spirit chi at all. This thing completely ignored the spiritual power in my body as an S-rank spirit chi professional and took root in my body. Upon hearing Ji Feng's words, Lin Yuan immediately pondered. For any object to become stronger, it would need to be driven by source power. It was just like how phase couldn't do without spiritual power, dimensional life forms couldn't do without source-type power, and apostles couldn't do without the power of faith. Absorbing origin energy was the process of using origin energy to continuously improve oneself. Using the power of the origin to stimulate and enhance the bloodline that one was born with, allowing the bloodline to be strengthened by the power of the origin and evolve in a better direction. In other words, the creature in Ji Feng's body that could not sense spiritual power was definitely compatible with another type of power. Just as Lin Yuan was about to suggest that he wanted to check on the strange life form in Ji Feng's body, Ji Feng suddenly fell on the sofa in the breeding room, and his body convulsed. Lin Yuan saw the nail scars on Ji Feng's body moving at a visible speed. Every inch of the nail scars brought Ji Feng immense pain. This made Ji Feng, a big and tall man, want to curl up his body. Upon seeing this, Lin Yuan immediately took a step forward and grabbed Ji Feng's wrist while circulating the spiritual power in his body. He tried to infuse his spiritual energy into Ji Feng's body. When his spiritual power entered Ji Feng's body and touched the strange plant life form inside, Lin Yuan realized that his spiritual power had entered Ji Feng's body. This strange plant life didn't have the slightest reaction to the spiritual power he injected into it. Upon seeing this, Lin Yuan hurriedly called out to Princess, who was in the depths of his soul. Princess, try injecting source energy into Ji Feng's body and see if it has any effect on the things inside Ji Feng's body. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's instructions, the princess activated the source-type power in her dress. He tried to inject a trace of source energy into Ji Feng's body. In the end, this trace of weak source power did not produce any obvious changes when it was injected into Ji Feng's body. However, compared to the pure spiritual power that Lin Yuan poured in, the strange plant life form in Ji Feng's body had a stronger reaction to this trace of weak source-type power. Could the strange plant life form in Ji Feng's body be more compatible with source-type power? Lin Yuan asked the princess to inject more source power into Ji Feng's body. The princess immediately injected a unit of source power into Ji Feng's body. As a result, the strange plant life in Ji Feng's body suddenly moved. As though it had been activated by something, it quickly moved toward the direction where the princess was injecting source power into Ji Feng's body. Lin Yuan saw that Ji Feng's right arm, which had been injected with a unit of source power, was quickly covered with a layer of nail scars that were 3 times denser than the rest of his body. This unit of source power was also rapidly being absorbed by the strange plant life. Lin Yuan came to a conclusion. The strange plant life in Ji Feng's body did not belong to the main world and was likely from a certain dimensional world. Only this speculation could explain why the strange plant life in Ji Feng's body didn't respond to spirit chi but could devour source power. At this thought, Lin Yuan recalled the power of faith contained in the apostle totem in the dimensional world. Lin Yuan slightly opened the shrine in his soul and guided a few light spots of faith to carefully inject into Ji Feng's body. Lin Yuan found that this strange plant life was rather afraid of the power of faith. The nail scars on Ji Feng's arm, which Lin Yuan had injected with the power of faith, had been cleanly removed. Just as Lin Yuan was about to inject more power of faith into Ji Feng's body, he found that Ji Feng's life force was becoming weaker and weaker. Lin Yuan hurriedly stopped injecting the power of faith into Ji Feng's body. He had almost forgotten that any movement of the strange plant life in Ji Feng's body would cause extreme pain to Ji Feng. After Lin Yuan stopped, he did not dare to rashly help Ji Feng recover his life force. He was not sure if the life force that landed on Ji Feng would be absorbed by this strange plant life. Plant life had always been extremely compatible with life force. If that was the case, it would have the opposite effect. Lin Yuan decided to wait for Ji Feng to recover and have a good talk with him. After a full 15 minutes, the constantly moving nail scars on Ji Feng's body stopped. Ji Feng also returned to normal once again. Ji Feng, who had just recovered from the pain, felt as though he had heard the sound of nature, because Lin Yuan was speaking to him. I might be able to solve your situation. There was still one more chapter at 12. End of this chapter. Chapter 1064. Lin Yuan's words could be said to have saved Ji Feng. Just as Ji Feng was so excited that he did not know what to say, he heard Lin Yuan continue. To solve your problem, I need to improve your physique and forcibly maintain your soul's consciousness for a period of time. This is the only way you can expel the plant life from your body without dying. To treat you, I need to spend a huge amount of resources and a very important power. Therefore, before saving you, I need to obtain your loyalty and know your secret. Lin Yuan's words were powerful and abnormally serious. After speaking, Lin Yuan took out a bottle of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar from the diamond face storage box. This bottle of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar was brewed from the diamond silver stamen gold luster cassia petals. A small bottle could wash away all the impurities on a person's body. The silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar was the only way for Ji Feng's body to reach its best state. At the same time, Lin Yuan also needed to burn a large amount of cold snow pine and use its smell and medicinal properties to nourish Ji Feng's soul. This would prevent Ji Feng's soul from collapsing due to the intense pain. Endless Summer also needed to use the world enlightenment power to awaken Ji Feng's spirit and soul. These 3 points were indispensable, and it could be said that each of them represented a huge amount of wealth. It was something that others could not even beg for. Moreover, after these 3 points, Lin Yuan still needed to consume a huge amount of power of faith. It was not that Lin Yuan was unwilling to do good deeds and save people in danger. On the contrary, he usually did many things to save people in trouble. It was just that those help were often done in passing. Lin Yuan was not a philanthropist. If he could not obtain Ji Feng's loyalty in secret, his efforts would be in vain. In that case, Lin Yuan's efforts would be wasted, and there would be no return. Lin Yuan originally wanted Ji Feng to think for a moment before giving him an answer. However, after hearing Lin Yuan's words, Ji Feng summoned the law rune he had comprehended without thinking. He used the law rune to swear to Lin Yuan and become his servant. Ji Feng was very clear about his situation. He was poor and could not offer anything other than loyalty. Ji Feng had been very attached to freedom and was only willing to be loyal to Lin Yuan for 3 years because he did not expect Lin Yuan to be able to treat his body. If Lin Yuan could heal his body, it would be fine even if he were to be Lin Yuan's servant forever. After a short contact and understanding with Lin Yuan, Ji Feng felt that Lin Yuan would not stop him if he really wanted to do that thing. He might even be able to help him. What Ji Feng wanted to talk about was the revenge he had to take, as well as the reason why he had become like this. After swearing an oath with the law rune, Ji Feng naturally addressed Lin Yuan as Young Master. Young Master, I wonder if you've heard of the Whale Ocean Trading, a top faction? Upon hearing Ji Feng's words, Lin Yuan frowned. When he had just arrived at the Creation Master Association, Wen Yu had mentioned the Whale Ocean Trading and the 10,000 Origin Hall to him while he was on the Divine Travel Black Swallow's back. Since it involved one of the Radiance Federation's top 3 factions, it seemed like this matter was definitely not a small matter. Could it be that the strange plant life in Ji Feng's body was related to the Whale Ocean trade? Lin Yuan did not express his opinion and planned to wait for Ji Feng's next words. Of course I've heard of the Whale Ocean trade. Continue. Ji Feng continued to speak with a pained expression. Young Master, do you know why the Whale Ocean trade became one of the top 3 factions? Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan shook his head. Lin Yuan had a lot of things to do every day. Although he had some understanding of the top factions, most of what he knew was the current situation. Naturally, he would not spend any effort to understand the Whale Ocean trade's history. Lin Yuan turned to look at Wen Yu. Upon seeing Lin Yuan's questioning gaze, Wen Yu immediately said, 80 years ago, the top 3 factions in the Middle Stream chose to merge. The top 3 factions in the Middle Stream were the 10,000 Flags Trading, the Ocean Sky Nurturing, and the Origin Item Chamber of Commerce. The top 3 factions merged to form the Whale Ocean Trade. Among them, the 10,000 Flags Trading controlled the trade routes and had experts but not enough island whales. The Ocean Sky Nurturing was a faction with Creation Masters as its function. After forming the Whale Ocean Trade, the Ocean Sky Nurturing began to devote all of its Creation Master resources to nurture island whales for the Whale Ocean Trade. The Ocean and Sky Nurseries is a faction with Creation Masters as its main function. After forming the Whale Ocean Trade, the Ocean and Sky Nursery started to pour in all of its Creation Master resources to nurture island whales for the Whale Ocean Trade. I heard that the Whale Ocean Trade's second function, the 10,000 Origin Hall, was established by the original members of the Origin Item Chamber of Commerce. I heard that the Whale Ocean Trade's second function, the 10,000 Origin Hall, was established by the original members of the Origin Item Chamber of Commerce 10 years ago. After the three top factions merged to form the Whale Ocean Trade 80 years ago, the 10,000 Origin Hall has always been active in front of the stage. According to the records, 10 years ago, the Sea Sky Nurturings members would still occasionally go out. In the past decade, the Sea Sky Nurturings members seem to have disappeared. When she spoke up to hear, she didn't continue speaking. Among the top three factions, the Whale Ocean Trade, which was backed by the Chef Supreme, might be the most low-key, but it had a faint tendency to suppress the Brahma insect's cage and the Rhine life form. Moreover, the original members of the 10,000 Flags Trading, who were active in front of the stage, were humble and low-key. They only cared about accumulating wealth. Apart from the establishment of the second function, the 10,000 Origin Hall, which made the Whale Ocean Trade, which was originally formed by the three top factions, there was no more news. Upon hearing Wen Yu's words, Lin Yuan nodded. He finally knew the history of the Whale Ocean Trade. The Whale Ocean Trade, which was one of the Radiance Federation's top three factions, was formed by the merger of three top-notch factions that were ranked in the middle 80 years ago. The hatred and grief on Ji Feng's face intensified as he listened to Wen Yu's introduction of the history of the Whale Ocean Trading Company. Ji Feng said after a moment of silence, "The people nurtured by Haitian in the Whale Ocean Trade are all dead. I'm the only exception." Ji Feng's words were like a clap of thunder that exploded in the ears of Lin Yuan, Wen Yu, and Endless Summer. Wen Yu suddenly frowned when she heard Ji Feng's words. This was because this matter was not recorded in the Radiant Moon Palace's Hidden Moon Pavilion. It had to be known that the Radiant Moon Palace's Hidden Moon Pavilion never actively gathered information. God knew how much manpower the Radiant Moon Palace had to expend to gather such perfect information. Of course, the Radiant Moon Palace also had hidden moon experts who specialized in gathering intelligence. In fact, the Radiance Federation's major faction's intelligence would be reported to the Radiance Moon Palace every year. This meant that the Whale Ocean Trading Company hadn't reported any internal struggles 10 years ago. Wen Yu suddenly thought of something and raised her eyes to ask Ji Feng. "Your surname is Ji. I remember that the Haitian Nurture's direct descendant's surname is also Ji." Hearing this, Ji Feng nodded gloomily. "That's right. If the Haitian Nurtures were still around, I should be the Whale Ocean Trading Company's Haitian Nurture's young master now." End of this chapter. Chapter 1065. It could be said that Ji Feng had divulged all his secrets and was truly introducing himself to Lin Yuan. At the same time, he also told Lin Yuan who his enemy was. Lin Yuan didn't expect Ji Feng to actually have such a background or such a huge mess. Upon seeing Lin Yuan frown, Ji Feng said calmly, "Young master, this matter is between me and Myriad Flags Trade." "Young master, this is between me and 10,000 Flags Trade. It has nothing to do with young master. Even if I become young master's servant, I will not bring any trouble to young master because of my matters. I only hope that after I am loyal to young master for 3 years, young master will allow me to seek revenge on Myriad Flags Trade." Upon hearing Ji Feng's words, Wen Yu sighed. Ji Feng said it calmly. However, based on Wen Yu's understanding of Lin Yuan, even if he did not care now, he would not watch Ji Feng throw away his life 3 years later. As one of the Radiance Federation's top 3 factions, Whale Ocean Trade had many Emperor-class experts. Even if Ji Feng became an Emperor-class expert, seeking revenge on Whale Ocean Trade's 10,000 Flags Trade members would be like striking a rock with an egg. When you felt that something was wrong. If it was a normal faction struggle, Myriad Flags tradespeople would not need to cover up the news of killing the Ocean Sky Nurturing members when reporting to the Hidden Moon Pavilion. After all, even if the Moon Empress knew about such internal strife, she would not care. However, Myriad Flags Trade had chosen to cover it up. There must be something fishy about it. It was just that when you couldn't figure out what the trick was at the moment. After hearing Ji Feng's words, Lin Yuan pondered for a moment and decided to accept Ji Feng. However, Lin Yuan did not continue the topic of revenge. Instead, he changed the topic. And asked, "How did you escape from the hands of Myriad Flags Trade as the Ocean Sky Nurturing's young master? I don't think Myriad Flags Trade deliberately let you go and nurture a tiger. Lin Yuan's question was very sharp, but it was something he had to know. Upon hearing that, Ji Feng recalled the scene 10 years ago. His eyes turned red, and his hoarse voice sounded like he was weeping blood. Originally, everything was calm and peaceful. However, on a day when it wasn't supposed to be a gathering, the 10,000 Flags lineage unexpectedly invited us to a gathering. At that time, the Wan Qi branch was very enthusiastic, and repeatedly expressed that they hoped that all of us from the Sea Sky branch would participate. In the end, halfway through the banquet, my grandfather, who is also the only peak Emperor stage powerhouse of the Ocean Sky lineage, discovered that the spiritual power in his body had been sealed. His mental power had also been paralyzed, and he was unable to summon any spiritual items. Right at that moment, the Myriad Flags bloodline revealed their true intentions and imprisoned all of us from the Ocean Sky bloodline. Then, the people of Wan Qi branch planted a seed with the smell of rotting corpses into the bodies of the people of Hai Tian branch. I happened to be the last one. I should have died a long time ago like the rest of the Sea Sky bloodline. But due to the special reasons of the two contracted phase, I managed to survive 10 years of pain until now. When he heard this, he did not go to comfort Ji Feng. After all, there was no way to comfort him with words. Lin Yuan patted Ji Feng's shoulder and handed him a small tube of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar. This is a jar of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar. Drink it. After drinking it, the impurities in your body will be discharged, and your genetic model will be optimized. Your body will enter the best state. Leave everything after that to me. When Ji Feng saw Lin Yuan holding a small jar of amber-colored nectar, he did not even think about the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar. However, as the young family head of the Whale Ocean Trading's Ocean Sky branch, Ji Feng naturally knew what the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar meant. The Radiant Moon Palace's silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar rarely flowed to other factions. Even if the Whale Ocean Trading wanted to request silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar from the Moon Empress, they could only request a dozen drops a year. It could be said that the amount of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar in front of him was something that the Whale Ocean Trading could only request for 20 years from the Moon Empress under normal circumstances. Upon seeing Lin Yuan take out such a precious item like the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar, Ji Feng was touched. He also vaguely guessed the relationship between Lin Yuan and the Radiant Moon Palace. Ji Feng had been parasitized by that strange plant life form for 10 years, and during this period, Ji Feng had not come into contact with any news. Therefore, Ji Feng could not guess Lin Yuan's identity no matter how hard he tried. Ji Feng simply did not know that the Moon Empress had accepted a disciple. Ji Feng extended his trembling hand and took the bottle of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar that carried a bright future from Lin Yuan. It was as though he wanted to drink the pain of his past. Ji Feng's body would discharge a large amount of impurities after drinking the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar. Lin Yuan looked at Wen Yu and Endless Summer and said, "Why don't the two of you wait in the lounge inside the breeding room? Otherwise, the two of you might not be able to withstand the smell of impurities." As someone who had drunk the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar, Lin Yuan was very clear about the smell of impurities in his body. The smell was like crushed fish intestines that had been fermented in a bag for 5 years, and then pig liver and soybeans that had also been fermented for 5 years were added in. After smelling it once, one would not dare to think about smelling it a second time. Endless Summer replied, "I still have to use the power to enlighten Ji Feng's world to continue awakening Ji Feng's spirit and soul. I'll accompany you outside." Lin Yuan shook his head in response. Endless Summer, circulate the power of the enlightening world at the entrance of the lounge. Use the power of the enlightening world to awaken Ji Feng's spirit and soul. There was no bathroom in the lounge of the breeding room. He could not let Ji Feng bathe in the bathroom while expelling the strange plant life form in his body. Therefore, enduring the smell of the impurities discharged from Ji Feng's body was his best choice. Although Lin Yuan wasn't a clean freak, he had always been very fond of cleanliness. Even when his body was at its weakest, the Xia region's face store would still be cleaned once a day. However, it was a critical time to save people, so he could only grit his teeth and treat it with extreme care. As time ticked by, Lin Yuan saw that Ji Feng's body was no longer emitting foul-smelling black impurities. He took out the cold snow rosin that he had placed in the spirit lock spatial zone. He added the fire-type Heavenly Maiden-grade elemental pearl powder that the scorching elemental shellfish had just produced into the cold snow rosin. The pure fire-type energy instantly ignited the cold snow rosin. After smelling the scent of the cold snow rosin, Lin Yuan felt his soul becoming lighter and very comfortable. Lin Yuan spoke softly to Endless Summer, who was standing at the entrance of the lounge. Endless Summer, now is the time. End of this chapter. Chapter 1066. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's instructions, Endless Summer immediately circulated the World of Enlightenment's power. The World of Enlightenment's pinkish-purple power enveloped Ji Feng, making him feel unprecedentedly lively. Once everything was ready, Lin Yuan placed his hand on Ji Feng's heart. Then, he completely opened the shrine in his soul. Under Lin Yuan's guidance, the massive power of faith poured into Ji Feng's body like a tide. Lin Yuan planned to use the power of faith to fully suppress the strange plant life form in Ji Feng's body. He had just heard that the strange plant life form in Ji Feng's body was developed from a strange seed with the smell of rotting corpses. Before Ji Feng had used his body as a container to nurture this seed, it had absorbed the energy of countless people. This meant that the seed had tremendous destructive power to the human body. Lin Yuan wanted to end the battle as quickly as possible to protect Ji Feng's body. Lin Yuan's method was very effective. Through the massive power of faith, Lin Yuan quickly forced the strange plant life form in Ji Feng's body into his left arm. Once the strange plant life form had completely entered Ji Feng's left arm, the dense nail scars connected together. This made Ji Feng's left arm look like an iron arm made of nails. Upon seeing that the power of faith could no longer force this strange plant life form back, Lin Yuan shook his sleeves. This strange plant life form had no intention of leaving Ji Feng's body, so Lin Yuan shook his sleeves. The amber button-shaped source sand landed on the ground and formed a quicksand vortex with a diameter of 2 meters. According to Lin Yuan's instructions, a chain sword made of ferromanganese separated from the quicksand vortex. The chain sword made of ferromanganese ruthlessly slashed at Ji Feng's left arm. Ji Feng's left arm, which was full of nail scars, fell, and Lin Yuan summoned the Jasmine Lily. He allowed the Jasmine Lily to freely heal and use its exclusive skill, Severed Power, to regrow Ji Feng's severed arm. During Lin Yuan's treatment process, Ji Feng felt as though he was enduring the world's harshest torture. The triple pain in his soul, body and mind was so intense that he had to punch in every half an hour. Ji Feng had thought of committing suicide more than 1,000 times. When the chain sword slashed at his left arm, Ji Feng only felt incomparably liberated. This was because that strange plant life form was finally going to leave his body. Even if he lost his left arm because of this, Ji Feng did not feel the slightest bit reluctant. However, Ji Feng didn't expect that the fey contracted by this youth wearing the majestic Sky City's pattern mask could actually regrow his severed arm. Compared to the joy of regenerating an arm, Ji Feng was even more surprised. As the young family head of the Whale Ocean Trading Sea Sky lineage 10 years ago, Ji Feng could not remember when there was a healing-type fey that could regrow a severed arm. Could it be that the times had changed in the 10 years that he had lived? Ji Feng, who had regained his new life, wanted to thank Lin Yuan, but before he could speak, something unexpected happened. The scar on Ji Feng's left arm that had been chopped off converged at one spot, turning into a dark green seed with the smell of rotting corpses. The black-green seed that had just formed with the smell of rotting corpses shot toward Lin Yuan. Just as Lin Yuan's nose caught a trace of the smell of rotting corpses, he felt a pain on his back. Then, Lin Yuan's spirit, soul, and body entered a triple agony. Previously, when Lin Yuan had used the diamond silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar to cleanse his body of impurities, he had endured physical pain. Later, when Lin Yuan had used the suzerain silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar to cleanse his soul of impurities, he had endured intense pain in his soul. These two kinds of pain that had made Lin Yuan wish he was dead was child's play compared to the pain he was experiencing now. Even when Lin Yuan's hands had been sliced by the spatial energy in the evolving water world dimensional rift, only white bones were left. His soul was about to burst from the two sacred source life forms, but the pain was not even 1/3 of the pain he was experiencing now. It could be said that Lin Yuan could finally empathize with Ji Feng. When Lin Yuan wore the Sky City's identity mask, Endless Summer, and when you would habitually call him City Lord and Young Master. Now that something had happened, Wan Yu and Endless Summer could not help but call out Lin Yuan's name out of worry. When Endless Summer and Wan Yu arrived in front of Lin Yuan, they immediately covered their mouths. This was because Lin Yuan's body was covered with the same nail scars as Ji Feng's. While worrying about Lin Yuan, Endless Summer's gaze toward Ji Feng was already tainted with brutal killing intent. After all, Endless Summer was a fae, and fae's feelings were always simple and sincere. The more powerful a fae was, the more it cherished its feelings. Endless Summer felt that if it had not been for Ji Feng, Lin Yuan would not have encountered this crisis. At the same time, Endless Summer blamed herself. It would have been better if she had insisted on not going to the lounge. If she had been close to Lin Yuan, she would have been able to respond immediately when such a situation occurred. Even if she had been in front of Lin Yuan, it would have been fine. Lin Yuan had used the life form Silent Fire to save her life and had given up the opportunity to receive glory. When she was suffering from the calamity of creation, he had brought Mystic Moon to save her and allowed her to obtain new resources and transform her bloodline. Finally, after she had become a creation breed, he had given her a precious sacred source life form. It had also helped her solve the problem of planting the Arakawa orchid sprout. Plant fays were not like animal fays, who did not know who their parents were from a young age. Most plant fays were alone from the moment they were born, and it would not be an exaggeration to say that they were born from nature. It could be said that Endless Summer's most sincere feelings, apart from her sisterhood with the Mother of Bloodbath, were those with Lin Yuan. Seeing Lin Yuan injured, Endless Summer felt worse than being injured 100 times herself. However, as a creation seed, Endless Summer was helpless and could not do anything about Lin Yuan's current situation. The only thing Endless Summer could do was to use the Enlightenment Law World to keep Lin Yuan's mind and spirit in a state of awakening. In fact, Lin Yuan was not as miserable as Endless Summer, and when you looked, how could Lin Yuan, who possessed the power of faith, wait helplessly for death? Lin Yuan had already used the power of faith in the shrine in his soul to counterattack. At that moment, Lin Yuan's body once again ignited with the amber-colored gauze robe, and he used the power of faith to wash his body indiscriminately. He also suppressed and drove away the strange plant life form that had invaded his body. Just as Lin Yuan forced the strange plant life form that had invaded his body into his left leg, and was about to use the chainsaw that was separated from the origin sand to cut off his left leg. Before Lin Yuan could heave a sigh of relief, another change occurred. End of this chapter. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.